After crossing the Atlantic, after last time out's race over at Watkins Glen, we're here in Italy. You'd think it'd be a little bit sunnier over here in a European summer, but the rain has set in here at Misano for the LMP3-GT4 challenge here in PRL. Getting the week 2 started after the last week's opening rounds that saw us race at Watkins Glen and, of course, at Portimao in what we'll see later in the GTP and the GT3 challenge. My name is Darren Thacker, up in the commentary booth. Delighted once again to be joined by Rhys Gardner as well. We've got Dustin Ollis pressuring all the buttons, making the broadcast look wonderful as well for us as well. And Rhys, we've had 1 week already. We've had a really exciting season opener. We've rolled into Misano. I don't think we were quite expecting some rain.
Yeah, indeed. Misano is the polar opposite of Watkins Glen, you know, an old school American road racing circuit, and we go to this very twisty and quite challenging circuit in Italy, in just outside Venice, in fact. A great schedule, though. Next week going to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and then running the gamut of great European and American circuits: Mugello, Barcelona, Road America, Hockenheimring, and VIR. What a great schedule this series has coming up.
Yeah, I'm really, I have to say, looking forward to Mugello particularly, but even Mosport next week's going to be really interesting, just to see how the drivers adapt. Misano and Mosport, of course, very different circuits, and then we go to the Red Bull Ring, which, you know, again, couldn't be much more different. But of course, we've had 1 week's worth of racing. That means we've got some scores on the doors, and they are pretty much as you would expect. Alec Bergstrom won last week. He's leading the championship by 5 points ahead of Eric Newman. Alvin Mayen and Peter Huston just in behind, and then you can count down the points. Vincent LaRue, Brian Vos, Nikos Sanidakis, Doug Sorrentino, Nicky L. Taylor, and Christian Garreton in the top 10. You'd expect them all there after being in that top 10. And the same can be said. I was going to say the driver standings, but in the team standings, it means that Delta Sport lead by Roberto's Angels team tail by just the 4 points. A little bit more open in this regard, of course, as you get 2 drivers combining together. Hydra Race, Geodesic Racing as well in P3. Tabula Ras Esports doing nicely as well. But top 4 looking quite nice in this category in the LMP3s, but not just in the LMP3s, of course. We have the GT4s, and Jesse Mullins won last time out, and of course he leads the championship. Aaron Myers, Aidan Young, who won so much last season, only P3, but good starting blocks for a championship challenge. Sam Mayorga, Francis Castillo Romero were in the top 5. Roy Brown, Josh Lewis, Nathan Jennings, Robert McGeehan, and Darren Rutherford were the others in the top 10. And you can have a quick look at the team standings. There's not too many in here. Solpec leading the way by 10 points ahead of Valhalla. Big Fast Racing and T-Beef not too far behind with Fiercely Forward and Valhalla Motorsports without the Teve in P6. But you'd expect those standings, wouldn't you, Rhys? Of course, 1 round gone, but after 2 or 3 rounds, you really start to see some patterns develop in these standings, and it's where it really starts to matter to give yourself that hope of a championship challenge.
Yeah, well, you never know, though. This is only round 2, and the track is soaking wet. We don't know how wet the track's going to be in the race, but I get the feeling it's going to shake those standings up even more. We might be waiting a bit longer to see that pattern develop.
Yeah, definitely going to be seeing quite a lot of it develop over the course of the season. But before we go racing here at Misano, before we get into qualifying, of course, we've got to thank all of our sponsors for this race this evening. Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminium profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All of our PRL members will also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. So, Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount code using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Murad. Mr. Hedge Sim Racing Photography, where you can capture your finest, proudest, or just your simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution, and it's a great addition to any sim room. Of course, Advanced Motorsports. Get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on all of their socials to become a better driver. I'm aware that you can follow them on pretty much everything you can think of. Threads, Twitter, Instagram, or X, I should say. Anything you can think of, so make sure you go and follow them. But as we get on towards the action here this evening, Reese, the cars looking like they're struggling to keep it on the black stuff, and you can't necessarily blame them because the rain really is coming down quite heavily.
Yeah, it's not really the black stuff at the moment. It's more of the light grey stuff at this stage. We've got a big amount of rain coming over the circuit right now, and it shows no signs of letting up for the rest of the qualifying session. But you can see Alec Bergstrom is in familiar territory. He is still on top at the moment, and we see some improvements further back in the LMP3 field. Jason Drescher putting in a great lap to get himself into P6 as Jake Browning, who didn't have a great race at Watkins Glen last round, ended up retiring, sits in P3. There's plenty of drivers who'll be looking to get a better run here from the first round of the season. Look at Dayton Lowe, though, just going to LMP3 pole. Excellent stuff. In the GT4 class, it's a typical story. Aiden Young on top. He wasn't quite where he needed to be at Watkins Glen. He was a bit lower down than I expected him to be, but a second ahead of everyone else. That's very impressive.
Yeah, and of course the P3 is still a very respectable result for him last time out. We'll see if he can try and better that with at least a P2, if not a win, later on this evening. Not long left in this qualifying session, though, for times to be put onto the board. And you're right in saying that it's a very big league in the GT4 for Aiden Young, but it's looking quite tight in the LMP3s. Dayton Lowe, Alec Bergstrom, 2/10 in it, with David Duino and Jake Browning just another 10th behind as well. So definitely some interesting fights going on in that category. But it looks like the GT4s, if Aiden Young doesn't get checked up soon, he might run away with it in the opening stages of the race.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be difficult, especially because we're expecting more of the same that we see in qualifying in the race in terms of weather. Peter Huston making an improvement there to P5 in the Hydro Race geodesic racing machine. One thing that I am noticing watching the cars go around in qualifying is you really get a sense for where the bumps are in the track, where the little dips are in the tarmac. There's areas in some of these corners where the track actually dips down a little bit further than I expected, and you can see that by the darker shading in places. That's where water's gathering. Those are the places that drivers will need to avoid when they get to the racing action. Of course, the wet line very different to the dry line. Usually want to see drivers running a car width or so wide of the apex in most of these corners, but Aaron Myers through the opening chicane here at Misano, obviously sticking to the racing line. When corners come thick and fast, you want to be hitting those apexes.
It's really difficult to really judge the right line for these drivers in where they're going to be taking. Do they really hit that apex, or do they try and drift a little bit wider to get that minimum speed up? It's all in a day's work for these guys, and it's why they are racing and why they are so fast. Tremblay not improving that time around, stays P6 in the 717 for now, but still not too far off a couple of the other guys, the likes of Adam Ostrich and Jesse Mullins, but a big snap of oversteer through turn 3. That's not going to be helping him out too much in his Mercedes GT4 car. Another quick look at the LMP3 category, and it's tightened again. Dan Van Schaar has closed into within a 10th of Dayton Lowe's time, if he has got any more times to set on the board. Championship leader Alec Bergstrom still in P3, not losing too much time, but there's still a couple of drivers, the likes of Oleg Lovkov, who have still got a time to set on the board.
Yeah, Lovkov currently down in 8th spot as Huston improves to P3. That's a really good lap there from Peter Huston. There's only 30 seconds left in qualifying, and we're unsure if Lovkov will be able to get to the end of this lap. You get 4 laps each over 10 minutes in this series, and I mean, there is a little time after the clock hits 0 to set your time, but not as much as it would be if it was an open qualifying session. There goes Dallin Van Schaar to pole position. First driver to set a time in the 1:48-second bracket. Lovkov not able to make it to the line. Well, an exciting end to the qualifying session there, Dara. Time for the grid.
Yeah, gutting for Lovkov there. He was so close to the line. But regardless, Daniel Vanshar leads the way and will lead us to green ahead of Dayton Lowe by less than a tenth of a second. The 75 getting that time in right at the end. Peter Huston and Alec Bergstrom on the second row. Not too much to split them, with David Duino and Jake Browning lining up on the third row. We'll look further back for Christian Garaton and Oleg Lovkov, who maybe could have gone a little bit faster if it wasn't for that last time, with Jason Drescher and Brian Vorse rounding out that top 10. Zach Herbert and Ian Starker are in the top 12. Nearly 2 seconds off the pole time. Vincent LaRue and Ryan D'Oconnor in the top 14 with Calvin Myant, and Matthew Falk on the 8th row. Nicky L. Taylor and Nikos Sanidakis, a driver who was so good last week, looking for more, will start in 18th. Only 2 more drivers in the LMP3 category, and it's Doug Sorrentino and Ray Bartnikovsky in the who round out, I should say, the 20 drivers who are on the grid. In the GT4 class, though, it's Aidan Young, 7/10 clear of anybody else, and that is Aaron Mize for the Valhalla Motorsports Terbic car. His teammate Tyler Sage Anderson will line up in P3 ahead of Jesse Mullins on the second row. Adam Ostridge and Jean-Philippe Tremblay are in the top 6, but as we've seen, those times really gapping out. Matthew Wyckoff and Jeff Kofold in the top 8 with Rob Brown and Carter James on the 5th row. Darren Rutherford and Caelan Tobin are in the top 12, but those times 3.2 seconds off the leading pole time, with Robert McGinn over 5 seconds off. Jared Bridwell, James O'Brien, Sean Mulholland and Will Jennings are the 18 cars on the grid, I believe. We will be missing one driver there. Oh, but there's a couple more. Travis Chapman, Declan Derber, running at the 20 in that GT4 class. There is someone there. We will work out who it is. And if it's you, we can only apologise. But we will see you on the grid for this one here at Misano. I mean, I know we touched on it before, Reece, but Misano, Watkins Glen, they can't really get more different, can they? So this might be, well, and especially with the rain, this could be a bit of a culture shock for some of these drivers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 35 minutes on the clock, and there is going to be a pit stop required in this race, as is the case in all PRL series. But I've been thinking about strategy a little bit as you went through the grid there. I think we might see those initial stints carry on a bit further than we've seen at dry rounds. Of course, in the wet, you are driving a bit slower. See the weather radar down in the bottom right. The rain has actually gotten much heavier than it did in qualifying. Should lighten up a little bit before another blast of water from the heavens. You'll be driving slower around the circuit, you'll be gentler on the throttle, you'll be short shifting as well on certain places on the circuit. So I think fuel usage is going to be lower than it would be if the race was dry. So I'm expecting in both LMP3 and GT4, we're going to see those first fuel stints run a few laps longer than we'd otherwise expect. So keep an eye out for that.
But it could also allow some of these drivers maybe to pit a little bit earlier, knowing that they don't have to put as much fuel in the car. So, you know, there's always that kind of give and take, and maybe the undercut can work as well, especially for some of the drivers who are a little bit further back than they might want to be, especially based off their performance last time out. But we've still got, you know, a pretty full grid. 40 cars, 20 in each class here this evening. Lots of opportunity for quite a bit of carnage, and I think you'd be silly to rule it out, really, wouldn't you? Because at a track like Misano, in conditions like this, with multi-class racing, I mean, it's all the ingredients for a fantastic race, really, isn't it?
Indeed it is. I'm looking for some big chaos in the opening corners in both classes. Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, the layout dating from about 2011-ish. The track has been through a few changes over the years. It actually, in its original guise, ran in the opposite direction and had a slightly different layout, but it was upgraded and you know, a few extra turns in some places. The back straight kinks, of course, getting tightened a little, and that's created a massive skill issue for plenty a driver over the years. So let's see how the LMP3 field goes going through that opening chicane. Plenty of runoff around this place, but in the wet, it's going to be slippery.
And of course, Misano, famously San Marino's nearest racing track, not Imola. you know, as Formula 1 had the San Marino Grand Prix, definitely closer here at Misano. But, you know, these drivers, you know, they might not even know that. They probably don't care. They're more focused on getting that launch off of the line. 20 of them in the LMP3s, 20 of them in the GT4s, ready to get going for what should hopefully be 35 minutes of fantastic racing action here. It's the second round of the season. We're early, we're only, I should say, in the early stages, but we've got a good championship battle brewing from a lot of these drivers. Some of those who are hoping to cement their place near the top of the tree. We have 35 minutes on the clock here at Misano. We are racing here in the on the Italian Riviera. What a start it is, though, from our leader, Dallin Van Schaar. Got on pole right at the end of the session, and he is making that stick in the LMP3 category. But in the GT4s, as they come around the final corner, it looks like it's going to be a little more single file. You know, both starts, there's a little bit of chaos here, Reese, but as they run down towards turn 1 in the GT4s, we're not seeing too many collisions in the LMP3s.
Yeah. Christian Garreton losing 4 places on the way through those first couple of corners, and looks like everyone's just trying to keep it stable for the time being. Aiden Young in the GT4s getting it done from the lead, side by side between Tyler Anderson and Jesse Mullins, the winner of the first round. Mullins will want to back that up and get his championship charge on the line, but once they're through those twisting, snaking opening corners, single file. Now they are starting to find the grip as the rain continues to pound down.
They're remarkably well behaved by all of these guys throughout the opening couple of sectors. As we're watching them all emerge through the mist. A couple of sends in the GT4s to the inside. I think that was for P17 even, so battling right down the back of the order. But points are really up for grabs anywhere up and down the field, so every position does count for these drivers, which does allow them a little bit of grace, isn't it, if there is a big mistake. But coming down now into this second sector, look at this from the GT4s. Oh no, off the road, the 35 car.
That's Travis Chapman in the BMW, and unfortunately falling down the order, but still 2 places up from where he started. We had Ray Bartnikovsky, Sean Mulholland, and Jared Bridwell not take the start. 1 LMP3 and 2 GT4s. I'm seeing a problem for Doug Sorrentino as well in the LMP3 class. I don't know if that's a technical issue or what, but he is absolutely falling down the order. It seems that he's had a few problems down the line, but the battle for 12th is on here, and the battle for first indeed. Magnificent stuff for the LMP3 cars. Looks like that's the number 25, if my numbers are correct, but no, actually battle for 8th. It is Jason Drescher in the 29 trying to hold off Vincent LaRue, and yeah, you see how difficult it is to put the power down coming out of these slower corners. The LMP3, of course, has a V8 sitting behind the driver. There's plenty of torque available.
And they're using all of it that they can, all of it that they dare, really. But you've got to be so careful on that throttle pedal in these treacherous conditions with the rain continuing to fall here at Misano. Meanwhile, in this GT4 battle, gapping out a little bit, Adam Ostrich, 7.7 seconds, nearly 8 seconds now away from the leader, but is only in P6. We're only on the second lap as well. There's a car disappearing in the background. Maybe a disconnect from there, but Adam Ostrich leading a train of cars, and he's got to be careful because of things like that. Jeff Corfold really just losing any kind of, you know, sense of where the braking zone is there in the wet there, and nearly taking out the P6 man of Ostrich.
Yeah, man, that's difficult here at Misano. Quite a few hairpins around this lap, and it's very easy to overshoot them. But it looks like they sort themselves out for the time being on board with the 65. You see how much he missed the breaking point by. And thank goodness there was that tarmac runoff to gather him up. Even if it's slippery in the wet, you'd still rather be on tarmac than gravel at times. Meanwhile, David Duino looks to be struggling here. Jake Browning moves past him. He's lost 2 spots coming out of the final corner.
Yeah, Oleg Lovkov got through into the final corner, and then Jake Browning just getting him on that acceleration. Those 2 teammates it does seem down there between Browning and Duino. So, you know, Duino at least has lost the position to someone who will be getting himself a few more points in that team's championship. But the number 5 car not having the easiest of times, as is really nobody at this stage. Window wiper working absolutely furiously, trying to, you know, allow these drivers to see where they're going, because the spray is intense, isn't it? On the run down, this is between turns 6 and 7, or you know, 6 and 8, I should say, with a little kink of 7 in the middle. But you know, you've got to be so careful, as Ryan O'Connor has come a cropper, but he's come back onto the track, recovering relatively okay, not getting, I should say, in anybody's way. But he is down in P16 already, and it's just looking so treacherous out there.
Yeah, very treacherous. And I think, you know, looking at that LMP3 on board, that is the poorest excuse for a windscreen wiper I've ever seen. It barely covers any of it. That's the spin there for Ryan O'Connor. Looks like he just kissed the barriers a little bit, at least it looked like from that angle, but he did recover well. Matthew Falk running a bit wide in the background there and loses the position to Nikhil Taylor, as, oh no, Oleg Lovkov, he is all the way out in the sand pit there, and that's coming into the final sequence of corners there. That's unfortunate. Got a break and turn at the same time in that area, and wet weather doesn't like that.
Yeah, and there's also an issue for for Jake Browning up in front, getting abused on the F3 drivers. Replay there, going wide. That is Lovkov sliding off the road, styling it out relatively well, you'd have to say, though. Keeping it pointed towards the cameras, which is always what we like to see. Maybe just doing it for a bit of skill, but I'm sure he was absolutely not doing that. Meanwhile, David Duino, after his little moment, we could call it, that dropped him from 7th to 5th, from 5th to 7th, is back up to 5th, and now has a 5-second gap up to Peter Huston. But there's a battle for the lead ongoing here in the LMP3 category. Daniel Van Shaw, he got that launch off of the line, but Dayton Lowe is not letting him get away, and down the inside he will come in towards turn 8. I think he's going to try and get the traction on the exit, but not quite here.
Yeah, this is the problem with wet weather driving. The inside line isn't always the best. I mean, I think Dayton's in a pretty good position at the moment. He's following in the wheel tracks of Dallin Van Schaal, which is going to clear a little bit of water off the racetrack just in time for Lowe to get a tiny bit more grip. As we saw with that incident for Lovkov, though, you need to be careful not to run over the white lines or the curbs. They're extra slippery in this wet weather. You know, they're painted. There's no water sinking in there like it does on the tarmac, and you see that Dayton Lowe having a bit of trouble keeping it on the track himself. Change for position as well in GT4 too. Tyler Anderson's just made his way past Aaron Myers for second in that class. So we'll keep an eye on the LMP3 battle, but for now it seems over. And this is the state. The teammates of Tyler Sage Anderson and Aaron Myers in the two Porsches trying to chase down Aiden Young, but Young in the Mercedes is looking supremely comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, Young is just 4 seconds in the lead now. He was on pole, of course, by a second, and he's just hammering home that advantage over everybody else now. You know, beating them into submission almost. There's nothing that the likes of Tyler Sage Anderson and Aaron Myers can do at this stage. And meanwhile, there's a fight here with Caelan Tobin and James O'Brien in this battle for 10th place in the GT4 class, as mid-pack as you could be down Rutherford. Oh, there's a big incident with the 65. That's Wyckoff, and there's more contact. There's 3 of them around now. And can everyone else tiptoe their way through? That's Jeff Korfholt, who has gone around. And be careful, James O'Brien rejoining the track. I thought there was going to be a bigger incident there, but that was a big old collision from these drivers in such a high-speed part of the racetrack.
Yeah, that was massive. First big incident of the race that we've seen. Double spin for Ryan. And oh no, from the lead, Dallin Van Schaal has gone off the circuit. Dayton Lowe now leads with Alec Bergstrom second in the LMP3 class. Man, we are less than 10 minutes into the race and we're already seeing massive drama. Also saw Tyler Anderson go off in GT4. He'd just taken second place, but he lost his rear wing in a crash with the barriers because I think we got a couple of replays to dissect in a few moments' time. How about now? This is what happened to the 65, just getting so crossed up, spinning back onto the racetrack, and well, I mean, he tried to hold the brakes, I think, but the momentum was just too great there on the slippery surface, and they ended up involving two other cars.
Yeah, absolutely nowhere for the others to go, was there, at that point, especially when you're going through the apex of that corner. If you go any further wide, you're going to be into the painted area of the racetrack, and then, as you mentioned, that hasn't got as much grip, so you're going to drift a little bit further out. Here's what happened with Vanshaw, who's now in the pit lane. I don't know if he was just trying to take the MotoGP long lap penalty there, but he's gone into the wall, and there may be some heavy damage, which is why he's come into the pit lane for the first time this evening. Depending on how long he can get on a fuel tank, he might be able to continue from there. Depends on the damage that he's got. But regardless, as you mentioned, drama earlier, with not even 10 minutes of this race that have been completed, and we've had changes for the lead. We've had multiple car pile-ups. We've seen Aiden Young just put his foot down and cruise into the lead. And you can see the time gaps between some of these drivers. They are really widening, and that's just because of the amount of lap time difference that you can find in these wet weather conditions.
Yeah, lot to be found indeed. Look at this battle, though. This is magnificent stuff. The geodesic racing cars bookending this one. The number 5 of David Duino holding this battle down at the moment, but 5 cars involved. Drescher, Browning, Hebert, and LaRue. This is some great racing going on at the moment, but we've still got a long way to go in the race, and I feel for the guys at the back of the battle. The amount of spray being thrown up by the diffusers in these LMP3s, it's difficult to find your way through.
But can they be picking their way through? I think one thing we haven't even thought about yet in this race is the idea that we could somehow have lapped traffic. And yet, hold on to your horses, because it's going to happen sooner rather than later as we just go towards half distance in this race. Still a few minutes off from that. But we are, 12 minutes in now, as David Duino looking focused, as you have to be in these conditions. You really can't have many distractions around you, otherwise you're going to find yourself making that little error. And that can compound, maybe drifting a little bit wide onto the painted parts off of the racetrack, where you're going to drift even further wide. It just compounds that misery, so you've got to be so careful. Aaron Myers going a little bit wide down at the hairpin at turn 10. But not losing a position to Jean-Philippe Tremblay for now. Jesse Mullins, though, is going to take over the mantra for P2 in this class, but still 7 seconds up to Aiden Young. That's a big old gap to close, especially at the pace that the number 9 is going.
Yeah, indeed. Jesse Mullins showing that consistency is key in these wet weather conditions. The previous runners on the podium obviously falling off in the incidents that we saw a few moments ago, but it's a three-way fight between him, Myers, and Tremblay. Coming into the final corner now, who gets the best run? Tremblay getting all sorts of crossed up over the curb, as it looks like that's Tyler Anderson in the pits there, getting going again after some damage repair that he had to take after hitting the barrier. And the fight in LMP3 is on again here too. Looks like Drescher has caught up to Duino, but man, the blinking lights are your only clue as to where the car in front of you is going, and you see he was dipping out every so often just to get a line of sight in this very difficult part of the circuit.
You have to think of how close he's running behind the number 5, and he's still getting that much spray and that lack of visibility for Jason Drescher. So really difficult conditions if you are following. If you're the lead driver in a train, happy days. You are going to be having a wonderful time. Clear track in front of you, no one to really block your way, but I guess then you could then argue that you've got no one to reference when it comes to taking some lines. But this is a big train now for P5 in the LMP3 category. Lovkov, the number 69 car, just in behind, maybe looking for a move, but he's been on the offensive all race long, and that doesn't look like it's going to be lifting anytime soon.
Yeah, Lovkov on the recovery after his earlier incident. He's got plenty to play for here, and if he can make those moves, it'd certainly be great to see. It would be a magnificent recovery. He's only one position behind where he started, but the majority of drivers in this battle are up 4, even 5 positions. It really is insane, the kind of racing that you see here. As Browning, it looks like, has lost the position to Zach Hebert there. Looks like just getting crossed up again on the exit as Lovkov goes for the inside on Vincent Leroux. Will he be able to make the pass here? Man, just driving across the racing line there, you lose a bit of traction, but it looks like Lovkov got it done.
Ooh. Yeah, and then he nearly got a bit of a love tap there from Leroux as they made their way in towards turn 10. But looking quick at the moment is the number 69 car, straight on the back of Ian Starker as well. So Starker's going to have to be careful of who that was. I don't believe that was Ian Starker, was it? I don't believe, no, it was Jake Browning. Sorry, because the timing page changed when I was looking at that. Here is Ian Starker trying to make a move of his own. But, you know, great to see that we have all of these battles forming in this race, despite the wet weather and going wide. That's Brian Fort, and Calvin Myant might come through on the inside, and he will indeed. So, you know, positions are chopping and changing like there is absolutely no tomorrow. And we've still got more than half of this race to go, Reese.
Yeah, indeed. Jake Browning, my apologies, has decided to throw up the white flag and be the first of our LMP3 runners to go for a scheduled pit stop here. Remember, he just lost the position. Well, now is his chance to get some extra fuel in the car, bring some stability back, and he'll complete his pit stop there. 5.8 seconds is the pit stop time there. No one else has decided to come in yet. Meanwhile, the sole Aston Martin in the field getting absolutely harassed by the 2 Porsche Caymans. Love the variety of cars in the GT4 class. Carter James currently sitting in 6th spot here. And the Aston Martin is one of the cars here that still has its road gear ratios. Majority of the GT4 class has race spec gear ratios in the gearbox, but the Aston, well, you've got to choose some weird gears for a few corners, which actually might help him in these conditions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's always the pros and cons, isn't there? But definitely in these conditions, you could say that it might just about work to his advantage. We've got Matthew Wyckoff right on the back, looking for that move in the number 44 car, and he will do so as we're getting the scheduled pit stops happening a little bit more often now, as that was Carter James coming into the pit lane to refuel his GT4. But as we make our way through in the LMP3s, we have still got such congestion on the roads, don't we? I mean, it's almost like rush hour at the moment with these LMP3s running around quite closely together, all behind David Duino at the number 5 in P4. But that's all about to change because we've got a couple of pitters in the LMP3 category. We'll see how that impacts the race. But I think most importantly here, Reese, we're going to start to see some lapping of the GT4s, and this could get messy.
Yeah, it certainly could. I was taking a look at Dayton Lowe as he started making his way past cars, and man, it's starting to get a bit insane here. As look up the inside here, careful. Robert McGeehan in the McLaren. Wow, what a recovery there from McGeehan, getting bumped in the rear by Jason Drescher as Oleg Lovkov made the move up the inside there. That was almost a disaster.
Almost is the key word in that sentence, because they just about all managed to get away with it, but really, really worrying if you were in that GT4 car to see that appear in your rear view mirror and in front of you. Look, 1, 2, 3, oh my word. I don't know how he held it, to be fair. Yeah, exactly. Fantastic work from him to make sure that it's pointing in a straight line, but I mean, crazy stuff. 3-way battle in the LMP3s. They thought they were going slowly enough as Lovkov going off again. Going back towards where that MotoGP long lap penalty loop is. He's going to lose out to Dreschler, but it could have been worse. There were more cars behind him, and I think lucky enough for him to stay in 6th.
Yeah, lucky enough indeed. They're at the point in the race where there's some solid gaps starting to form, and so Lovkov was able to rejoin without issue. The battle for 2nd in GT4 as well. Jesse Mullins, he's starting to come under pressure now from Aaron Myers. It's Porsche versus Porsche. The Cayman looking very good in the wet conditions, but Myers will be struggling to find a way past. These cars don't throw up as much spray as the LMP3s do, but visibility's still an issue.
Yeah, getting a little bit better, I think it's fair to say, but not a whole lot better. You still really wouldn't want to be driving around with this kind of spray in your road car, and you definitely wouldn't be running this close to the car behind if you were Aaron Myers, who's going to maybe send it around the outside. Jesse Mullins, and if he can get it stopped, it's a great move, but he just about can't. He's onto the painted stuff, and he's going to lose out that position once again, and got to be careful, because Jean-Philippe Tremblay is right there to pick up the pieces if he goes a little bit too far in his attempts to make the move. But regardless, it's clear to see Jesse Mullins is not going to have this P2 easily, even if Aiden Young is 12 seconds up the road, having a lovely time in the lead.
Yeah, I think Aiden Young has the luxury of being able to manage his pace without being under pressure. That's the benefit of being as fast as Aiden Young is. You see, he's just running the same line lap after lap, going wide in every single corner, searching for the grip on the tarmac. Yes, he does hit the occasional apex, but that's just the nature of the circuit. Meanwhile, drivers like Myers and Mullins, man, they're having to really make adjustments every single time they make their way through the same corner. Yeah, I think Aaron Myers is definitely looking the quicker of the two in that battle for GT4 P2 as Christian Garreton goes around there. Looks like making a recovery. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be much chance of a pass if he keeps overshooting the braking zones like that. That's what happened to Garreton there, doing the same thing Lovkov did, going for the MotoGP long lap, but this time getting into the gravel.
Going a little bit too far there. I mean, it was interesting to see some of the gravel that has been picked up and put onto that painted part of the racetrack from drivers that have already gone off there, showing that it is a common mistake. But here is the battle between Duino and Drescher at the moment for P4. Lovkov not too far off the back of this one either. The number 5 car looking to get back up to where it was not too long ago. But let's see what happened to David Duino. Oh, it was a big moment in the final corner. Hit the curb and nearly spun himself out. Amazing to keep it out of the wall there.
Yeah, well recovered indeed. It wasn't the same story for Vincent Leroux, though. Leroux was running reasonably well in round about the top 15, and unfortunately just locked the brakes going over the white line, and he's decided to retire the car. We've lost quite a few drivers from the race. Tyler Anderson, Dallin Van Schaar, our pole position man. It's such a shame that Dallin Van Schaar was not able to make it round. Kaufhold, Rutherford and O'Brien from the GT4 class as the battle for third is back on here. Adam Ostrich now facing off against Matthew Wyckoff as the LMP3s make their way through. The only trace of the car behind is those headlight beams shooting through the spray.
Looks like something out of a horror movie, really, doesn't it? Where you've just got those two lights chasing you. Oh, no, but there's Ostrich. Oh, in the 96 car, he's really lost the rear end. And maybe he was spooked by the car behind him because he's gone right off of the road. He's nearly in the wall. He's reversing through the gravel trap. Got to make sure he keeps that car going. Doesn't get himself beached, but disaster for the 96 car. And for Adam Ostrich, who was doing so well, that's going to be so disappointing.
Yeah. Very disappointing indeed. Took him a while to recover as Aiden Young, our former GT4 leader, has taken to the pits there, fiercely forward. Looking good for the win in both classes today, at least as things stand. Dayton Lowe still leading the LMP3 class. On to the power goes Aiden Young, freshly fueled up, and there'll be a little more stability in the rear of that car for a few laps. He comes out in third place, just behind Matthew Wyckoff, and that just goes to show how much of a lead that Young had gotten.
Yeah, he's got to be careful here with Matthew Wyckoff, though, of course. He's not had to overtake anybody all race long. We've been going, 25 minutes nearly. He's got to be careful not to make any kind of rash error while trying to overtake the 44 if he does decide that that is the best course of action. Oh, he's going to go to the inside. Late braking move, but can he get it done? I think he's going to have a good bit of traction, but not as good as the 44 of Matthew Wyckoff, who stays in front, defending valiantly, almost despite the fact that he is in a completely different race to the 427.
Yeah, this is the difference between the dry line and the wet line, right? If that was in dry conditions, Aiden Young would have got that move done, no problem. But the track got slippery on the inside. When there's rubber that builds up on the conventional racing line, as soon as it rains, it gets greasy, it gets slippery. You want to be where there is no rubber. The track is rougher there. You get the tires gripping into the surface better as, oh dear, another GT4 Mercedes there getting spooked by the LMP3s as they came through the very fast section of the circuit. We'll switch our attention back to Young here, and it's a bit wide on the exit there for Matthew Wyckoff, but he was able to get the traction on again. Here we go. This could be the potential for the over-under, but, man, it just seems like Young is struggling there. Well, the driver is going to pit of Matthew Wyckoff, so Aiden Young has been released. He probably lost a bit of time stuck behind Wyckoff there, but I don't think his lead should be hurt too much.
No, when you build up a 14-15 second advantage, I don't think you're going to be too fussed about 1 or 2 seconds lost behind a slower car. Aaron Myers, though, leads by 21 seconds. Maybe keep an eye out for him, but I wouldn't be too sure. This is the battle for P12 now. Jake Browning, he's fallen down the order somewhat after a couple of incidents. He's right behind Nicky L. Taylor, who has been trying to recover from a bad qualifying performance all race long. Inside line at the final corner, we will see Taylor and Browning make their way through on the GT4, but sliding his way absolutely, I don't know how to describe that really, just stylishly really out of the final corner to go around the outside at the opening corner. Can he pull this one off? Jake Browning, take a bow if he can make it work, but equally so, Nicky L. Taylor coming back from the dead to overtake at turn 2. Then it's Jake Browning just proving that being off the racing line is faster in those corners.
Yeah, the outside line in turn 3 is where you want to be in these conditions, and Browning will secure the place there. Nikhil Taylor, of course, yet to come into the pits, so he's going to lose out a little bit more from that. Looks like about half of our LMP3s have visited the pits, but we're still waiting on stops for our top 7. Dayton Lowe and Alec Bergstrom, they've continued to just strut around on the ever-decreasing fuel load.
It's going down and down as we progressively go through. We're looking at, I mean, most of these LMP3s, you can see, not pitted at all. I mean, the top 6 at least haven't come into the pit lane. Make up the top 7 with Brian Forsch. Oleg Lovkov is the highest running driver who has been into the box. So that could be an interesting one to keep an eye on, but the gaps are big. So, take that with a pinch of salt. Aaron Myers has stopped in the box. We'll see if he comes out behind Aiden Young, and if so, how far. It looks like he will be. But that time gap is really where it's going to be at. Calvin Myers into the pit lane as well. He was near the back of the field. But he is not crashed, so clearly doing a better job than some of the other drivers in the race, as we have 4 retirements, or at least 4 drivers not out on track in the LMP3 category.
The pit limiter line here at Misano goes on for a very long time indeed. You just feel like you're waiting to get back on the power, but the GT4 back out of the lane there. I believe that was Aaron Myers who rejoins in 2nd spot. Meanwhile, the number 27 of Myant gets it done out of the pits as Jason Drescher has had a problem. Not the first time we've seen him slow on the racetrack tonight. He's been struggling a little in these conditions, but still holding on to P5 in LMP3.
Yeah, doing a good job, but not for Drescher. Let's see. Well, I mean...
Oh, no.
Just a bit of a kiss. But that's almost exactly the same contact that we saw happen with our one-time race leader and pole sitter Alan Vanshar have into that exact same corner. So maybe Drescher was going to have some issues, or he might equally be able to get away with it. Regardless, he's down to P5, and he's a long way behind David Duino. Remains to be seen where Alec Bergstrom's going to come out in all of this, because he's been having a relatively quiet race, but going longer doesn't seem like it suited him too much, because David Duino is going to overtake him for P3 here. as the number 5 looks ever more likely to try and pull off a podium in this race.
Yeah, you never know. Duino has certainly been driving well over the course of the race. I don't believe he's pitted yet, though. Let's keep our eyes peeled on Dayton Lowe as he remains in the front of the LMP3 class, going all the way to the outside there, trying to get the best run possible off the corner. Got some traffic to negotiate as well, but shouldn't be catching up to them down this section of the circuit. We're still waiting on pit stops for 4 of our LMP3s. That includes Lowe here, as well as Huston, Duino, and Drescher. Looks like Nikhil Taylor has just jumped into the pits as well, as Brian Vorse manages to get his pit stop done. And, whoa, that's very big on the exit there for Dayton Lowe. Just incredible stuff, really, seeing the sheer traction that these cars would have were it not for such wet conditions into the pits for our LMP3 leader.
One of the things I was thinking about earlier as well is maybe that one of the most risky places to be on this racetrack at the moment would be the pit entry, because of course it won't have seen as much, as many tyres going over it. There won't have been that much movement in the standing water. So maybe very possible for a couple of drivers to go deep there, maybe lose a race. But Dayton Lowe negotiating that absolutely perfectly. Is not negotiating it perfectly. Is that Aaron Myers? Yes, it is. Myers going wide in the 22 car. Loses out on P2 to the number 9 of Jesse Mullins after having gotten through not too long ago.
Yeah, it's a shame for Aaron Myers. He's been having his fair share of issues. It's interesting to note that he's one of the GT4 cars that has had a quicker pit stop. GT4 pit stops have been running around 10 to 13 seconds in length. Myers' pit stop only 9.7 seconds, so probably a bit less fuel he's put into that car, and in these conditions that can create a lack of stability compared to if you had put a couple more liters in at the stop.
Yeah, so Lovkov has been promoted up the order to what is now P3, P4 as he continues on, and maybe it's going to be P5 because of where David Duino is. But regardless, the battle for P1 in the category is Dayton Lowe and Alec Bergstrom. Alec Bergstrom just pitted and has come out right behind Dayton Lowe, and with 4 minutes left on the clock, there is, all the chances in the world for something to go wrong for Dayton Lowe and for Alec Bergstrom to maybe claim a second win of the season.
Yep, could be all to play for here for Alec Bergstrom. He's been absolutely flying out of the pits here. Dayton Lowe, having just come out, he's still getting up to speed. So this is the prime opportunity for Alec Bergstrom to get back past. He just needs to be careful with how he picks his lines. Dayton Lowe has been running very wide in many of the corners. Bergstrom hitting apexes a little more aggressively, which might be hurting his pace.
Yeah, but you can't be thinking about the tyres for too much longer. It's really a sprint to the end now, isn't it? But Dayton Lowe, oh my word, it's just not looking comfortable, is it, for the 708 car under intense pressure from Alec Bergstrom at this stage of the race. 3 minutes on the clock as they cross the line, and with them lapping at about, 150 give or take, means that we're going to see 2 more laps between ourselves and the checkered flag. And with the track getting a little bit slower than it was earlier on in the session with more rain falling, you can see there it's becoming more treacherous for the 708.
Oh, very treacherous indeed. And you see how much Dayton Lowe's struggling on the power there. He tried to use a bit more curb, but again, it's a painted surface. It's super slippery in the wet, just staying off the white line on the outside of the circuit there. He'll get the initial traction off the racing line through the hairpin, but Alec Bergstrom is coming. You see how he's setting himself up nicely for the run into this second hairpin of the lap. Just going a little bit further to the inside. There'll be a little bit less grip there for Alec Bergstrom. He'll have to wait a couple more corners for Dayton Lowe to go wide and potentially see a move. But this is the part of the circuit where we've seen many cars go off, these kinks down the back stretch.
Yeah, it's so difficult to really make sure that your car is planted through those corners as the weight kind of starts to move around and then the rear end starts to walk around on you. And from that point onwards, there's nothing you can do. Thankfully, though, for Dayton Lowe and for Alec Bergstrom, they've negotiated those kinks for the penultimate time as they come now towards the final corner. The white flag will be flying. Barney will be waving it absolutely furiously from the gantry as we see Dayton Lowe leading Alec Bergstrom across the line. But will they finish in that order when they come and meet the flag next time around? There's GT3, or GT4 I should say, that will become a little bit of traffic in the way as they come through the opening couple of corners. But Dayton Lowe trying to defend from Alec Bergstrom. The 66 car is as close as he has ever been.
Kalen Tobin there letting them go on the outside of turn 3. Bergstrom again has to wait for the opportunity. Lowe is struggling for grip. You see him sliding all the way through these corners. And look at Bergstrom's wheel work as well. He's straightening it up as soon as he can. He's trying to work the traction control in these wet conditions. He's lost out on the exit of that corner, but he could gain it all back.
And though Bergstrom looking for a different line through as they make their way in towards that tricky turn 8, as they make their way towards, to be fair, the trickiest corner that we've seen so far at turn 10. Will they both get through there without a hitch? It looks like Dayton Lowe is taking it very cautiously, and for good reason. You don't want to throw away a win here with only half of a sector to go. You've now really got one heavy braking zone left in this race, a couple of medium braking zones for Dayton Lowe to manage, really, just to make sure that he doesn't lock up and walk his car off of the road. Let's see, a couple of corners are left to go here as Dayton Lowe will round turn 12 and turn 13. Alec Bergstrom, he's fought very, very well in this second half of the race, particularly in these closing couple of laps, but it doesn't look like it's going to be quite enough because Dayton Lowe has got 2 more corners to make sure, between himself and the line, to make sure that he can win this race. Final corner approaching for the 708 car. As long as he doesn't spin it out of here, he should be good to the line, and he has made sure that the rear end stays where it should. And Dayton Lowe, he's denied Alec Bergstrom back-to-back wins at the start of the season as he wins here at Misano for round 2, Bergstrom P2, and you think that Peter Huston is going to come home in a bit of a lonely P3, but you've got to give full credit to Aiden Young as well here, Reese, because 15 seconds in the lead, an incredible effort from him.
Oh, yeah. This is the Aiden Young that I'm used to seeing. Some fantastic driving over the course of this race. He has absolutely mastered these wet conditions and put him significant lead. Just got a couple of LMP3s working their way through. Brian Vorse and Jake Browning. Browning had just lost the position to Vorse there. So another unfortunate run for the geodesic racing car, but for Fiercely Forward, Aiden Young is your GT4 victor, and by some margin.
15 seconds, an incredible effort from Aiden Young, I think it's fair to say, throughout the entirety of the race. There he is crossing the checkered flag and solidifying that victory. Jesse Mullins and Aaron Myers, second and third in the race as they will approach the line now. But yeah, Aiden Young, it was P3 last time out. It wasn't quite the top step of the podium, but you really can't argue with what we've seen from him. But, you know, so much great racing action all the way through all 35 minutes of that race here at Misano. We're looking forward. We were talking about the calendar earlier on, Reese. We've got, you know, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park next week. Very few heavy braking zones there. I mean, that one's going to be quite a different one once again, because it's a bit more like Watkins Glen in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, it's going to be a fun time to come here in PRL Monday Sports Cars. What a fantastic opening race of the night. LMP3 and GT4 always goes off. It was fantastic to see the masterful drives that we saw here at Misano. It's time to go through our results though, Dara. How do things end up?
And in the LMP3 category, it was a very, well, I was going to say very comfortable. I'm getting ahead of myself. It was not a very comfortable win for Dayton Lowe. Only 0.4 of a second ahead of Alec Bergstrom, who did set the fastest lap in that race for 48.7. They slowed down 3, 4, 5 seconds even by the end of that race. But regardless, Lowe and Bergstrom are comfortably ahead of Peter Hudson in third. They were then also comfortably ahead of David Duino, 30 seconds off the lead, but still picking up good points in P4 with Oleg Lovkov in P5. Zach Herbert and Christian Garreton 6th and 7th, less than 50 seconds off the lead, with Jason Drescher, Brian Vorch and Ryan O'Connor rounding out that top 10 in such tricky conditions at Misano. Nikos Sanidakis and Ian Starker, Jake Browning and Nicky L. Taylor finished on the lead lap in the top 14, with Calvin Myant, Matthew Falk, Doug Sorrentino, Vincent LaRue, Dallin Van Schaar and Ray Bartniakowski, none of them, I should say, seeing the flag in that race. In such tricky conditions. But for the GT4s, an absolute masterclass put on by Aiden Young in that race. 16 seconds he won by, ahead of Jesse Mullins, who only just pipped up Aaron Myers for P2. You know, 9/10 of a second between second and third there. It was tight on the line. Matthew Wyckoff a long way back in P4, with Carter James and Adam Ostrich the only other drivers that weren't lapped the same amount of times as Aiden Young. Kalen Toby being a lap down is deceptive, of course. He was caught by the leader in the LMP3s once more than Aiden Young, but still a good result for him in P7. Robert McGeehan, Roy Brown and Declan Derber rounding out the top 10 in a very diverse top 10 in terms of the cars that were used. Travis Chapman and Will Jennings also finished the race in 11th and 12th, but then we had a raft of non-finishers with the instance that we had. Jean-Philippe Tremblay, Charles H. Anderson, Jeff Kulfhold, James O'Brien, Darren Rutherford, Sean Mulholland, Jared Bridwell. So a lot of results, a lot of drivers in that race, 39 to be exact, Reese, but it was, you know, carnage at the start, but also at the same time we saw quite a lot of good racing action and side by side as well through the that kind of pit stop phase of the race.
Yeah, some brilliant racing going on over the course of this race, but rising above it all was Dayton Lowe in the LMP3 class. He stood by for a chat.
Dayton, welcome in. Congratulations on the win here for round 2 at Misano. You weren't given an easy ride, were you? It wasn't looking too comfortable at all, but you got to the end. How tricky was it just to keep that lead in the last couple of laps?
I was fighting for my life at the end. I had overshot my pit box, and I thought I threw it away then, and then I got stuck behind that GT4. So I thought it was over, but then I just defended as best I could, and it paid off. It paid off.
Yeah, I mean, what was the grip levels like out there? Because it looked like the track kind of came back to you mid-race, and then the rain started falling a little bit heavy once again, and it went away. How difficult was it to gauge at points where some of the braking zones were, especially when you were confronted with traffic?
So, at first, it was grippier than I was expecting. The only race I did this week was terrible. So it was grippier than expected. And then out of nowhere, I went off at a corner, and I realized then that it started raining heavier. Grip went right down, but right towards the end, grip went back up. I started gaining some more confidence in the car, and it was sketch out there, but somewhat manageable.
Enjoyable, though? I mean, very different to last week at Watkins Glen. What do you prefer? You know, Watkins Glen in the dry or Misano in the wet?
You know, I personally think eating sand is a more enjoyable experience than driving Watkins Glen. So I would definitely drive this any day of the week. Any day.
That's amazing. But looking forward to next week. Looking forward to it. Mosport in Canada. Is that a track you're looking forward to, or not one of your strongest?
Oh, absolutely. I've never raced there before, but actually, I take that back. I raced there once, and it was a blast. So I'm really excited for it. Really excited.
Love to hear that. But congratulations, Dayton. A great win as well. And fully deserved. We'll hopefully speak to you again next week after the race at Mosport.
I appreciate it. I hope to be in here again. And shout out to Fiercely Forward. I just got to thank them for the support. Shout out Fiercely Forward. All right. Y'all have a good night now.
Thanks, Dayton. Dayton, deserve a winner, Reese. Absolutely deserved.
Yeah, absolutely deserved. And speaking of Fiercely Forward, Aiden Young is here for a chat as well, the winner of the GT4 class. Congratulations, Aiden. Looks like you're back. Podium at Watkins Glen, yes, but back to winning ways in the wet. We seem to not have Aiden Young at the moment. We'll give him a little bit of time to sort out any mic issues he may or may not have. But there we go. You're
Sorry
here,
about
Aiden.
that. My mic shut itself off, and then I had to replug it back in because it was acting a little weird. So I don't know why I was doing that. But yeah, I could hear you guys though. So, but to answer your question, yeah, that feels good to be back on top. I love the rain, so for me it was really fun, and I just tried to, you know, keep consistent, keep clean, and push a little bit too, because from practice I kind of found the limits of the wet with the Merc, and I kind of utilized those limits, and then just for the rest of the race when LMP3 traffic came through, I just tried to stay clean, and it worked out.
Yeah, it must have been a bit difficult with the LMP3 traffic around such a tight and treacherous circuit here at Misano. I mean, the corners do come thick and fast around here, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do. And in the wet, it's Misano's definitely a bit sketchy. There was a couple times when I was behind some of the LMP3s and I was like full sideways, basically drifting, and I had my F1 wheel full lock and I was just sliding. So that was pretty fun though, and I certainly loved every moment of it. But yeah, when the traffic goes through, you can't see anything. The spray, like especially when it started raining harder there towards the end, and the track got like 5 seconds slower. It was crazy. And like when you were behind any other car, whether it be GT4 or an LMP3, there was just so much spray that even with the windshield wipers, you were like, you had no clue where you were, so you were just like, oh crap, I gotta lift, otherwise I'm gonna be in the wall somewhere.
Well, the wall was the opposite of where you ended up, Aiden. Congratulations on yet another victory in your trusty Mercedes.
Thank you.
Aiden Young there, magnificent drive to the GT4 win. And that's going to conclude our coverage of LMP3 and GT4. Next time up, Dara, we go to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, one of my favorite tracks of all time. Really looking forward to next week.
Yeah, it's not the longest track, is it? It's going to be quite fast in the lap times. It's going to be lots of overtaking between the LMP3s and the GT4s. Looks like it's going to be a fun one as well. So looking forward to that in 7 days' time. Not got too long to wait for that one. And with a championship picture, that will be, more than enthralling with the names that we've got near the top and the tightness that we will have near the top as well. So cannot wait for that one. But while we wait on the LMP3 GT4 challenge, we have got to set our sights, I should say, to the GTP and the GT3 series that we are heading straight to the Nürburgring for. We're still in Europe, but very, very different surroundings as we get in towards nearly the Ardennes in Western Germany. So we'll have to see what this part of Germany Eifel can give us this evening. But another race with almost certainly some close racing here, Reese. The Nürburgring always provides some good racing action, particularly when you forget about the Nordschleife as much as we love it. It is one of those tracks where there's overtaking opportunities galore, but there's also places where drivers, they feel like they can risk it.
Yeah, exactly. I love the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, actually. It's another one of my favorite circuits. It's got plenty of great overtaking opportunities, a lot of challenge, some beautiful sweeping corners in the back half as well. But the rest of the schedule looking fantastic as well. Daytona Road Course, the next round. And we go to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in week 4. Interlagos, Fuji, Road America, Barcelona, and then Circuit de la Sarthe to round off the season, the spiritual home of these cars. Really love this schedule as well. I'm looking forward in particular to seeing how Fuji goes for round 6. We're running the no chicane layout in PRL, so that's one less outbraking opportunity, but I think we should still see plenty of drama down there in that twisting final sector.
Fuji's are one of those tracks I feel that's always slightly underrated in that regard. So yeah, agreed. Looking forward to that one as well as Motorsport. But as we had in the other series not too long ago in the LMP3 GT4s, we've got our standings, which are pretty much last week's result. Pat Pelchat, of course, winning in the GTP race, and he will take a 5-point lead ahead of Jack Hedgecock coming into this one. Graham Wildmon finished in P3 ahead of Jeremy Carter and Alex de Almeida. Nathan Ray, Cody Cosgrove, Rodrigo Abreu, Matthew Denise, and Carsten Quint were the top 10 and are so the top 10 in the GTP drivers standings. But that's not where we draw the line. In the team standings, Go Win Racing lead by only 3 points. Solpec Precision Racing are only 3 points back, and Blue McCaw eMotorsports are a further 10. But it's close. Pax Oceani and Solpec Precision Racing are tied on points. The likes of Waterback Racing, Simcar, and Vice Motorsport a little bit further back with some more work to do. But meanwhile, in the GT3 driver standings, it was Brett Gardner who won out last time. Corey Sassoni, I know I pronounced that wrong, I will get that right later, is in second. Ted Lovendick is there with William Fenson and Chris Stewart in fourth and fifth. Jake Cummings and Shreyas Venkataruju in P7. Dean Giroux, Richard Saavedra and Sean Stecker round out that top 10. And then, of course, we go to the teams. Tech Sport Academy by AMS, top of the tree, 102 points ahead of Big Fast Racing and the Venson Brothers, who are in second and third. The likes of Waterback Racing and DFL further back, and then Drive Trainer, Death Grip, Solprec Precision, and AGS Blackthorn Racing are the other teams that have got their representation. But we're getting towards the end of qualifying. In this session, not too much longer left to go, but the Nürburgring in general raises a track where you've got to make sure you're making those moves effectively, because half-hearted moves can end quite badly.
Yeah, I mean, the prime overtaking opportunity obviously at turn 1, and you can go all the way down to the south end of the circuit and find a great overtaking opportunity in the hairpin there, but particularly through that section that we're seeing, I believe Pelchar going through now, it's quite difficult to get moves done. You have to go around the outside of the sweeper to get the inside for the right-hander at the bottom of the hill. And side by side through the Schumacher S coming up here for Pat, our championship leader. It's flat out in the GTPs, flat out in the GT3s as well if you nail the line. So side by side will not work out too well through there. Another point that we should discuss is the fact that the GTP class has gotten a balance of performance change from iRacing in the last few days. The Acura has been the car to have for quite some time now, but it's been nerfed a little bit. It's had power and downforce reductions to bring it a bit more in line with the rest of the GTPs, and as a result, PRL have granted some extra time for GTP drivers to change car and not get penalized if they wish. But I think the likes of Pat Pelchat are certainly very comfortable in the Acura for the time being. But at the very least, the Cadillac should be a bit stronger compared to the Acura now.
I'll have to see how much of a difference it does make in that regard when it comes to the order that we will see. I mean, like you said, we saw our race winner from last time out, Pat Pelchat, looking very happy in his Acura, but it might just be a force of habit rather than it still being the fastest car on the grid. We'll wait and see. Ted Levendick going a little bit wide as he makes his way through this middle sector of the lap now, and that's not going to help his lap time, of which he doesn't yet have one, so he's got to be very, very careful. Meanwhile, Alex de Almeida currently up in P2, 2 thousandths ahead of Nathan Bartley, just showing how close it is in that GTP category.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Alex de Almeida is just getting some extra track time at the moment. He set all of his laps towards the end of this session. It is amazing seeing how close the gaps are. I mean, you go from third all the way down to sixth in GTP. Nathan Ray just a tenth and a bit behind Alex de Almeida's time. Pat Pelchat, though, he's still looking for a proper lap time here. Currently sits in 12th, and I think he's gotten off tracks on a few laps as well. He'll be hoping to avoid them here as he makes his way through the Vidal chicane at the end of the lap. and to the final corner he will come. Got to put down the power and use all of the curb on the exit for the run to the line. Pelchart's lap time will be a 1:42.9, and that's going to be pole.
It is going to be pole, but not by a whole lot, is it? 1/100th of a second. Less than a tenth back to Nathan Bartley on the second row. Incredibly close at the top of the time sheets. Corey looking to come up to the line. Can he improve on his time in the number 86 car? Let's see as he crosses that beam. He does improve up to P2. The 86 is still over a second of what Brett Gardner has put in, and that really does just show how good of a lap time Brett Gardner has set in that 1:51 to be a full second clear of the field.
Yeah, Brett Gardner dominated the first round of the season at Portimao, so he's looking to carry that momentum forward. Very successful indeed. Shreyas Venkataraju, meanwhile, in the Porsche, making his way up to the final few corners, just 30 seconds remaining, and he should be able to make it to the line in time. Hard on the brakes, turned in a little early there for Vidal chicane, and I think he managed to maximize the exit there. We'll have to wait and see. Jake Cummings, meanwhile, improving up to P4 in GT3 and all the way over the curb for Venkataraju. This is going to be a 1:59.0. Nicely done there for him, but unfortunately not quite as quick as his ultimate lap time. So that's going to conclude things for qualifying. We have a grid to go through now for this series.
Yes, we do, and what a grid it looks like it's going to be because of some of the lap times and how close they are. Pat Pelchart is on pole, but by the barest of margins, 1/100th of a second ahead of Rodrigo Abreu. Nathan Bartley and Alex De Almeida in the top 4. John Rice and Bradley Holly in the top 6, but they're still less than half a second off of our fastest time. Nathan Ray keeps up that form in the top 7, with Graham Wildmon, Darian Roy and Jack Hedgecox rounding out the top 10. Ray Kingsbury and Nicholas Schwartz is 12th in the number 9 car with only 2 more. Jeremy Carter, Carsten Quint, the 14 GTP cars in the field. We have a much bigger GT3 field with Brett Gardner leading us to green again, as we saw in the in the GT4 category earlier on, a full second clear of his closest competitor, which is Corey Saccone. William Fenson, Jake Cummings 3rd and 4th, Shreyas Venkataraju and Sean Murphy in 5th and 6th as the times are widening out. Eric Fenson, Ryan Reeves, Daniel Trinker and Chris Stewart round out the top 10, with Evan Henneman and Gabriel Alvarado in the top 12. More drivers to come though, with Dean Giroux and Mark Kalin in the top 14, Travis Pruitt and Jake Mackey, Bowie Suen and Corey Fenson in the top 18, with I think Corey the back of the Fenson brothers. He'll be having some work to do in that regard. Richard Saavedra and Thomas Yankee in the top 20, Tris Schreiber and Brendan Chatley. And on the final row of the grid, it's Kerry Corcoran and Ted Levendick, who we saw going wide on his lap, not setting any lap time at all, having to start right from the back of the field. 38 cars then here at the Nürburgring, rather than the 39 we saw at Mersano. So overall this evening race, that brings us to a grand total of 77, and I don't think we're going to be any much shorter of action in this race as we were in the last one with some of the times that we've seen in qualifying.
Yeah, the GTP class obviously very close coming out of the qualifying session, so I'm looking forward to seeing whether Rodrigo Abreu can take it to Pat Pelchart and make up for his unfortunate penalty in the first round of the season that demoted him back to 8th spot. I believe it was due to either entering the pits too quickly or exceeding the incident limit. One of those two. My memory is not great at the best of times, but regardless, Abreu does have a bit of redemption to gather here in the Rhine Valley at the Nürburgring, as the GT3 field gives some good space to the GTP class. It is the Cadillac and Acura show in the GTPs here as they round the final corner and we get ready for the green flag.
Yeah, thankfully we've been blessed with not having any more of a formation lap in this race, but we're going to get going pretty quickly in these GTPs. Forwarding cars here as we get ready at the Nürburgring, and a great getaway from our pole sitter off of the start. 3 wide though as they make their way down into the opening corner. Let's see if they all settle themselves out before they make their way through the apex, but they're sent there from the inside. There's 3-4 wide. I think the driver starting in P3 or even P4 maybe has taken the lead. Meanwhile in the GT3s there's an absolute melee down towards turn 1 as well. 2 by 2 as they make their way towards the opening corner. The GTPs have worked themselves out, but in the GT3s into turn 1, some feisty moves to the inside.
Yeah, indeed. Rodrigo Abreu, unfortunately, falling to P6 in GTP. He went very wide in turn 1. The GT3 class led by Brett Gardner. Corey Saccone has put on a fantastic defense on Jake Cummings as there's a spin for William Fenson coming out of the arena section. Dangerous spot there, right on the racing line, right on corner exit. He very wisely backs out of it, and it looks like we have another car off there too. It's Venkataraju in the Porsche.
Yeah, awful starts for those guys. They are getting through the opening, tricky 360 part of the racetrack, but 45 minutes starting to tick down on the clock. Pat Pelchat with a fantastic getaway. I really thought that the likes of Nathan Bartley, John Rice maybe took the lead down at turn 1, but Pelchat just about holding them off on the exit. But a great start, and great to see these guys really close together as you expect at the start, but really not letting each other get away with it whatsoever. Move maybe for Bradley Holly on the back as he tries to make a move for P6, but nothing doing into this final chicane. They bounce their way over the curbs as is customary to do there. But as we come to the end of the opening lap, it looks like it's settled down a little bit in the GTPs, and it's settled down in the GT3s as well, because Brett Gardner has already pulled a full second over Corey Saccone.
Yeah, it's amazing the pace that Brett Gardner has, and he's obviously well in tune with that Corvette Z06. Saccone, though, splitting the 2 teammates. Jake Cummings trying to get some moves done. Sean Murphy holding on very well in the Ferrari as well, as looks like, that's... I think that's Jack Hedgecox there that's had a half spin there, and he'll lose a couple of places, but still 2 up from where he started, as side by side here. Further back in the GTP field, Acura versus Cadillac. There's no Porsches, no BMWs in this GTP class, but the racing is still fantastic. The GT3s are still not sorted out here. It looks like Mark Kalin in the Mustang there having to give way to Evan Henneman.
Yeah, and Evan Henneman doing a good job to make that move. We're going to have a look at a quick replay of lap 1 to just see what all happened there, because there was a lot going on, wasn't there, as we made our way through the opening sector, and that is where we saw the contact coming through turn 4, I do believe. As that is getting out of the way as well. It's so difficult really on the opening lap when you've got cars coming through to make sure you stay out of the way of the others, because there's nothing worse than having the incident first off and then causing a further incident by a bad rejoin.
Yeah, indeed. And I think Shreyas Venkataraju is going to be feeling a bit sheepish after that one. He tried to go up the inside of Fenson on the exit of the arena, but it's difficult to go side by side through there. The cars have to late apex and line it up for the straight. So back to the GTP class, Bradley Holly and Ray Kingsbury swapping places in turn 1. Jeremy Carter getting ahead of Karsten Quint and is now no longer running last in the GTPs. Rodrigo Abreu, meanwhile, well, he started on the front row, he ran wide in turn 1, and he's not made much headway. He's still sitting in 6th place behind his teammate Alex de Almeida, and he's having looks here. You know, maybe there'll be some team orders here. Abreu obviously quicker, and that's going to be a line up the inside there for him as De Almeida ran wide in the right-hander. Yeah,
De Almeida nearly making the move on Abreu, but we're going to have a look at another replay here of lap 1 here in the GTPs. You could just see the
he made contact with
Pelchat. That was turn 1. Yeah, I mean, this is my point. I thought there were a couple of drivers just snuck down the inside with that contact that was happening at the front. That maybe would have sneaked through into the lead, but I mean, so difficult, isn't it? It's one of the tightest turn ones in world motorsport. It's fair to say. Oh, there's been a spin for the number 7 car, William Fenson, going around, and the Fenson brothers not having the best of starts to the race. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, I think that's 2 of 3 that have gone around.
Yeah, here comes Darian Roy and Jack Hedgecox. Oh dear, Hedgecox off. Oh, that's such a shame there. There'll be a little bit of damage now to Hedgecox's Cadillac. Hedgecox known for his exploits in the LMP2 when it was a part of this series. Graham Wildman, meanwhile, there's plenty of his fans in the chat. He managed to get on the podium at Portimao. Can he do the same here? He's got a bit of work to do down in 12th place, but it's going to be 11th spot as he makes his way past Nicholas Schwartz.
Yeah, good move there for Graham Wildman as he's now up into the top 11. Can he push on for the top 10? We're also seeing moves further up the field. So in the slowest part of the race between Bradley Holly and Darian Roy, there's contact. What a hold though from Darian Roy. He was almost certain to go spinning around, but the 2-1-1 is still pulling in a straight line. And I have to say he's only lost a couple of seconds despite that being 4 or 5 spots.
Goodness gracious, there's a lot of passing going on in the GTP class at the moment further down in this field. Of Schwartz heading up this pack, Jeremy Carter behind there, Darian Roy, Ryan Kingsbury, and Karsten Quint. This is a very intense battle. We'll get the replay here on the big screen. Contact coming out of the arena section. Again, it's just a case of drivers trying to line up the run onto the straight, but there's others who want to be a bit more aggressive on entry into that corner. And the two come together, and it just results in a crash.
Yeah, it can't necessarily be said to be too surprising to see it end in a crash in that manner, but unfortunate for the likes of Ray Kingsbury there, who is now down in P14. We'll see what happened to him here. Down, I believe he locked his brakes up, as you can see him. Yeah, just not getting the car stopped enough, and then going out wide, losing 3 spots there for him. And now we've got another car going around in towards the gravel, getting it out as well. That is going to be Ted Lovendick, who had such a poor qualifying performance. He was doing so well in the race to pick up spots, but he's made a mistake of his own now, and he's going to have to do all the work all over again.
Oh, here comes Jack Hedgecox around the outside of Bradley Holly, and he gets it done beautifully. Switches to the inside line, then in the second corner of the arena, and Holly's all sorts of crossed up there in the Acura. This is crazy. This race in the GTPs, I wasn't expecting it to be this chaotic as Pelchar goes for the fastest lap.
Yeah, let's see if he can, well, I mean, he's got it, but let's see if he can improve on that as we go through Bradley Holly. My favourite camera angle in all of sim racing, the onboard T-cam with a sim racer. We can see with the 184 car currently sitting in P8, looking to try and get through on Jack Hedgecox. Nothing doing for the time being. Got to be careful as well, because the likes of Graham Wilcon in behind will be happy to pounce on any kind of move if it is possible. But we'll have to see how Bradley Holly is getting on later with the T-cam. It just looks fantastic! Oh my word! On the Apex as well. We've got Thomas Yankee going around. There's another car on the exit. There's been collected by yet another GT3, who's been collected by another. And here come the LMP3s. Who is that, the leader? Is that Pelchar going wide? I don't think it was. No, it was Nathan Ray. But Rodrigo Abrau's taking advantage, and oh my word, race is all kicked off.
Yeah. Goodness gracious, the problems just continue there for Shreyas Venkataraju, and he's ended up escaping off the circuit in response. What on earth happened here? He was trying to get the move done on the Mustang, maybe distracted by the technical issues for the Audi ahead, and then spinning and getting tipped around, and that is the worst possible place to be stopped. Got run into by, I think that's Lowendick that went into him, and, well, he tried to reverse off the circuit, but, I mean, it was just too difficult. The GTPs were coming up on him. There wasn't much time to react.
Bit of a surprise there, wasn't it? Everyone just converging in the same place at once. We're going to have an onboard here with Lovendick. Let's see what happens to him as he makes his way into the chicane. You can see the incident in front. Lovendick trying to pick his way through. Oh, there's the car. And from that point onwards, there isn't too much you can do if you're Ted.
No. Yeah, we saw the GTPs doing some lawn mowing as well. Graham Wildman versus Bradley Holly as they try to make their way through the GT3 traffic. They work themselves out only just. What a fight it's turning into as traffic is now an option here for the GTPs. Oh my God, look at that. It's Jeremy Carter having taken to the curb there. Nicholas Schwartz just holding on to the position, and Darian Roy gaining a ton of time as they got held up through the Schumacher S.
Yeah, looking to make moves here. It's almost impossible to keep track of all the action that is ongoing, but this is the battle for 10th in the GTP. Jeremy Carter's Darian Roy looking for it. Roy up the inside. Can he make this one work? I think he can into the final chicane, and as he does, there's a GT3 off of the road, but they're getting back on without making too much of an indent. Schwartz is coming into the pit lane from P10 in this race in that lovely green and yellow liveried GTP car. Let's see what that does to his races. They're damaged there. We'll wait to see. Bradley Holly and Graham Wildman, though, they're still fighting it out as they make their way into the opening corner. Holly still ahead of Wildman, but oh my word, this race really has just kicked itself into life in the last 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, certainly has. First time the GTPs are making their way through the GT3 field. Just ridiculous, you know. It's their first experience getting past these cars in race conditions when they're trying to battle with each other in their respective classes. Jeremy Carter and Darian Roy having a very tough time of it. A little bit of a check up there coming into the corner, but round the outside of the Ferrari they will go. I think that's one of the Fensons that they had to make their way past there. Oh my lord.
Yeah, the Fenson's not having the best of days, but they've got to be careful because there are faster cars coming through. Here's Holly and Wildman inside. Oh my word, it's the fastest part of the racetrack. And Bradley Holly getting through much nicer than Graham did there, but Graham, I think he'll just be happy to have survived that. Meanwhile, further in front, Nathan Bartley and Pat Pelchat, and John Rice, I should say, not Pat Pelchat, fighting over P2 in the GTP category. John Rice down the inside, I should say Nathan Bartley down the inside. My word, I'm getting these two confused quite easily. But Bartley in the 37, leads Rice in the 27. That's not in the least bit confusing. Through the final corner they'll come, though. Rice looks like he might have a run here towards turn 1.
Yeah, catching a little bit of slipstream off the Corvette of Chris Stewart. Nathan Ray is right there as well. Can't forget about the Cadillac of Rodrigo Abreu as well, who's picked up some damage somewhere along the way. His front end obviously not looking 100%. John Rice running a little bit wide there in turn 2, and that's going to give another opportunity here for Nathan Ray. Has a look up the inside, but it's not going to work into that section.
No, it's not. He's going to have to bide his time and wait. Nathan Ray is into this battle as well now, as these two start to squabble. Pat Pelchat's loving it, though, because he's getting further and further away. 4.2 seconds is now his gap. Well, that battle's going on. Guess what? There's another one. Dean Giroux and Richard Saavedra for P11 and 12. There's only 3/10 in this one, less than that, as they make their way out of the the hammerhead section of the racetrack. And down towards the lowest point of the circuit. There's a problem for Nathan Ray up in front, unless he's going for a pit stop, but I think he's had some kind of issue because they are nowhere near the pit lane. And let's see, we'll have to see what happened to him. Meanwhile, up in the front here is John Rice and Nathan Bartley. And Reese, this is really heating up between the second and third place drivers, I should say.
Yeah, they're going to work their way through the GT3 traffic finally as they make their way past Brett Gardner. We'll get a look at what happened to Nathan Ray here. And it was coming down into this corner here at the south end of the circuit. Just goes deep trying to get past, I think that was Brett Gardner's teammate, Jake Cummings. Well, unfortunately, these GTP cars don't have anti-lock brakes. The GT3s do, but if you push too hard on the brakes, you'll go very deep indeed. Oh no, Jake Mackey has gone for a spin there, coming out of, I believe that's the right-hander coming onto the back stretch, and he's having some trouble getting that car going.
He really is. Let's see if he can... Well, let's hope he can get it out of there, but I think he will. Meanwhile, again, here is that battle. Bradley Holly, Graham Wildman. Graham Wildman looking for those smarter lines ahead of those GT3s if he can. Bradley Holly more going for the gung-ho approach. And They're cancelling each other out at the moment. It's been there all on his own. In the end, there wasn't any contact to speak of there between a GT3 and a GTP. I really want to call them hypercars out of instinct, but they're not. They're GTPs. We're still looking at this battle. I think there's going to come a stage where Graham Wilborn's going to start to become quite frustrated looking at the back of Bradley Holly here, because he's looked so much quicker for so long now, but he's not quite been able to make the move.
Well, part of me wants to say that he will likely go into the pits earlier than Holly in order to get some clear air, but he'll have GT3 traffic to work his way through. It's not as simple as that when you've got a multi-class race going on. You got to be careful of where the GT3s are when you decide to take your pit stops. Meanwhile, look at this here from Alex de Almeida, sorry, Darian Roy and Jeremy Carter. Beautiful outside run from Carter, getting the position. That's fantastic.
What a move that is from Jeremy Carter on Darian Roy, who won't be too pleased about that one happening. Let's see, can he work it around the outside again? Maybe the up and under through the chicane. Oh. He has pulled that off brilliantly if he can make it. He's set it up a treat, but he can't quite make the move.
Slow down.
He's biding a slowdown penalty. Yeah, must be a slowdown penalty. He wouldn't have given up that much time into the final couple of corners, and that was why he gave it up on the exit. But here comes Rodrigo Abreu defending from Nathan Ray, who's up the inside at turn 2, as they make their way all the way through this long left-hander. It never ends. It just never ends. But Abreu round the outside has got the inside line for the right-hander, and somehow the 14 car is still ahead of the 23.
Oh, side by side, Nathan Ray getting a bit of a better run here, but it's going to be Abreu on the inside for the ultimate corner in this sequence, and he gets the move done. Remember, Rodrigo's still carrying a bit of damage to his front end, so Nathan Ray will probably come back at him somewhere along the line, but they don't have any more GT3 traffic for the time being, so they can just race each other as hard as they like.
Let's see how hard it does get in the end, because these guys, they've got to be careful, haven't they, really? Because this has been some incredible fighting so far. But, I mean, we've still got more than half this race to go. We've only just passed the third distance in this race. 28 minutes still left on the clock. And for once, we aren't looking at that battle for 23rd position at the moment, but we're getting lots of sparkles. Regardless, though, Pelchat leading the way, Nathan Bartley in second, John Rice in third. I mean, this really is looking like a race where we're going to have to wait and see after those pit stops happen, Reese. You know, where the drivers come out and how they can race each other while they're going to the end. Because here's Bradley Holly and Gray Wilborn still going at it, and I can't see this stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, Wildman's been struggling to get past Holly, hasn't he? Bradley, of course, is known in PRL for his oval exploits, but he's a very capable road racer as well. Wildman just not able to find the clear opportunity to get by. These guys are starting to catch up to Jack Hedgecock's now that they've got some clear air on hand, but you can tell clearly Wildman, the faster car in the corners right now. Remember, the Acura has had those downforce cuts. Meanwhile, Mustang battle here with a Ferrari right in the middle of it too. Bowie Suin in the green Mustang. He's the one who spun Venkataraju earlier. He'll have to let them go here. William Fenson will continue his recovery drive here. Fenson, of course, qualifying in the top 3 for the class. So he's got a lot to play for here. 26 minutes still remaining in this race. Plenty of time to get further up, maybe to the top 12, maybe even to the top 10, depending on how his luck goes, but it's going to be a hard slog. We've only lost 2 cars so far.
Incredible to think about it in that way, that we've had all of this carnage, all of this drama, and yet the only 2 cars are out of this race, which is great to see, really, because it means that we are still getting some fantastic racing action up and down the field in these really tight battles that don't feel like they're going to be going away anytime soon. 4th in GTP, 3 drivers fighting over it, less than a second between them. Nathan Ray and Alex de Almeida chasing down Rodrigo Abreu. Even these guys, they're behind a battle for P2 as well as they make their way through on the GT3 cars. But 25 minutes left to go. Pit stops are going to be in the back of the minds of the drivers soon. Of course, approaching half distance in a couple of laps' time. But, I mean, you've got to be thinking, if you're Pat Pelchat, are you just going to be waiting for the last possible opportunity just to keep yourself out of all of this trouble?
I would think so. I mean, Pelchat, he's holding on to a 5.5-second lead at the moment, or near enough. And, you know, trying to run as long as you can when you're in the lead of a race seems to be the way to go. Especially considering, you know, the further ahead you go, the less of a chance there is that you'll put yourself in a pack of GT3s. That'll allow more of an opportunity for the GT3 class to space out as well, and that'll put them in the optimal position to come away with a comfortable victory. But yeah, it's obviously way easier said than done. In battles like this, though, it's very close between Abrao, Ray, Almeida, and Hedgecock's four-way fight. The waters get muddied a little bit. I don't know what strategy I would go for if I was in that battle. If I was behind, I don't know, maybe try and pit earlier, but there's the chance that you get caught up in GT3s. Honestly, just play it by ear is what I do, and what happens, happens.
You just got to really make sure that you're not making mistakes. I mean, it sounds so simple and it just sounds so cliche, but obviously, in a race such as this, where there are cars all over the road, there's drama left, right and centre, if you're not part of it, it's probably going to be a good thing for you, your race and your championship challenge, despite us being so early in the season. If you're not making those mistakes, if you're not creating that chaos that we've been talking about all race long, then you're going to find yourself a little bit further up the order than you might have expected earlier on. So it can be so crucial for some of these guys just to keep their noses clean and out of danger. But for the likes of Corey Fenson, Daniel Trinker, and William Fenson, these guys, they're not going to stop fighting anytime soon. Corey, I think he's letting by William, but Will just got a little bit loose as well. So this is interesting, and with the cars flicking as well, this is not an easy time for the drivers.
Our overall race leader, Pat Pelchat, making his way through all of these guys as we were talking as well. Well, Daniel Trinka is looking very strong in the yellow Mustang there, though suffering a couple of technical issues along the way. Fenson continuing on his recovery drive. He's now down at 12 positions from where he started. Meanwhile, a replay for Corey Fenson. Let's see what happened here. Oh, he just got a bit crossed up there over the curb. He tried to hold on to it, and he almost succeeded, but Trinka around the outside in the Mustang, getting the power down beautifully.
Yeah, great move in the end, but unfortunate to see Fenson there having those issues. But as I was talking, you've just got to make sure that you're keeping it on the straight and narrow. As difficult as that, well, as easy as that sounds, I should say, it can become difficult in high tension and in high action races such as this. Eric Fenson, meanwhile, a little bit further up the order, he's on the offensive against Ryan Reeves as they make their way down in towards the middle sector. If you can remember all the Fensons, well done. But Eric in the 777 car is looking on the back of Ryan Reeves. At least the numbers are different, Reese? I think it'd be a little bit more difficult if they were similar.
Yeah, indeed. I'm familiar with the Fensons. No problem for Rodrigo Abrao. He's gone around in the arena and he has lost all of those positions. He worked so hard to gain back. He now sits in 7th. Well, he's going to go to 6th. It looks like Jack Hedgecock's with issues. And, oh, dear, Bradley Holly having to check up for the GT3. Someone else there in the midst of all of that. Graham Wildman, who finally succeeds in getting past Bradley Holly. Absolute chaos there in the GTPs.
I can only apologise for my worried scream there, if anything, but I really did think that was going to be absolute chaos and carnage. Somehow, they've all made it through with, it seems, every single one of the pieces still on the car. We're going to have a look at what happened to Rodrigo Abrao here, who hit Corey Fenson and spun him around, and then that just started the chain reaction. Round he goes. As all of the others drive through, then there's the contact, there's GT3 out into the wall on the exit of the corner, there's an incoming GTP. Let's look as we work our way into the corner. The send is sent, nearly hitting the back of another one of the GT3s, and then losing the position nearly as the spin. It's all going on, Reese.
Yeah,
there's another one wide.
Yeah, geez, yeah, it's still going on here. Graham Wildman rising above it all, managing to get the place on Bradley Holly as we see pitters in the GTP class. I'm seeing Bradley Holly and Jack Hedgecox making their way in, as well as John Rice, who has had a bit of a quiet race so far. We also see a GT3 there. That is the Audi of Ted Lowendick, who's certainly had his fair share of issues over the course of this race. Second time visiting the pits there for the Audi. Oh no, overshooting the pit box there was the Cadillac of Jack Hedgecox. I mean, his GTP run, he managed to get, I believe, fourth at Portimao, maybe third. Can't quite remember exactly, but he got off to a pretty strong start for his first time in a GTP car at PRL, but unfortunately that pit stop has cost him a lot of time. Now Rodrigo Abreu has Graham Wildman for very close company. Abreu now wants to stay out as long as he can to try and minimize the damage from his unfortunate spin, but speaking of damage, he's carrying a bit more to his front end now, and Graham Wildman is looking as aggressive as ever.
I don't think Graham Wildman can believe his luck, really. He's now fighting for P4. He was fighting for P8 and 9 about 3 minutes ago, and nearly Rodrigo Abreu having a big old moment and possibly costing himself another bite at the top 3 in this race. Alexei Almeida now comfortably on the podium with 18 minutes left on the clock, but Graham Wildman has been fighting his way through to the pleasure of the chat, I think it's fair to say. He's just been picking up the pieces. He's been keeping himself out of that trouble, and that's why he's now fighting possibly for what could even be a podium.
Yeah, you never know. If the strategy is nailed and Abreu has to take some repairs in the pits, then Wildman will definitely get that position and be looking at P4, but could certainly be a P3 on the cards if there's problems for Bartley or De Almeida, who are running very strongly right now. Working their way through GT3 traffic again, Wildman has to go to the outside of Sean Murphy in the Ferrari. Bit of a compromise line there as Brett Gardner is our GT3 leader. It looks like an exchange between himself and Pat Pelsharp. So our class leaders together on the racetrack for, I think, the second time in this race. But I mean, we haven't given Brett Gardner much airtime, and for good reason. He's just so far out in front right now. He led by I'd say about 3 seconds or so at the line over Corey Saccone, and Gardner and Saccone are the only 2 GT3 cars that still occupy the position they started in.
One of those cases where, generally, if we haven't talked about you as a driver on the broadcast, that's a good thing. Because it means that you've had a nice, boring race, you've not had anything to worry about, and you've just been going about your business in a very, very consistent manner. And that's exactly what Gardner and Saccone have done so far. 3 seconds is the lead for Brett Gardner. And then they have 7 seconds back to Jake Cummings, and then the rest. Stuart Reeves, Eric Fenson, among the gaggle of all of the cars that we see further back, because there has been so much action, particularly in that GT3 class. But even in the GTP class, Pat Pelsharp, we've barely talked about him because he's 7 seconds in the lead. He's avoided all of that carnage behind him, and he looks all the more comfortable because of it.
Yeah, very comfortable indeed is this battle for 10th, Hedgecox versus Carter. And it looks like in the midst of all of this, Wildman has decided to jump for the pit lane. Rodrigo Abreu, the guy he was battling with, staying out there. Hedgecox, of course, already into the pits. Same for Jeremy Carter. Carter's just coming around to complete his first lap on this higher fuel load. Don't expect that tyre change is going to be much of a thing in these races. It's only a 45-minute race, and the GTP tyres can easily last that distance. So can the GT3s. It's just fuel, as there's a little problem there for Carter, for Hedgecox, sorry. Carter is the brighter coloured car. He's going to make his way around the outside of turn 2, but Hedgecox will try to fight it here through turn 3. GT3s, though, making things difficult and has to give up the fight for just a couple of moments. Oh dear, this is going to get interesting. Oh, I think that's a very wise move there from Jack Hedgecox. He just allowed Carter to have it. Didn't want to create further drama in the GT3s, but he loses the rear.
Yeah, just going around again. It was just looking so on edge, wasn't it, really? Jack Hedgecox letting through Jeremy Carter, but then it all comes unstuck again for the 24 car. He's just again losing that end. It looks like we're seeing quite a lot of incidents down into that corner, possibly particularly more on the hypercars. Is it difficult with the downhill braking? It's slightly off camber down there, isn't it? But we'll see it again on board here with Jack Hedgecox. So early in the corner, he's losing the rear end. And you really just can't pick it back up before the anywhere really before the apex.
Yeah, just a big old issue there. You know, you're undergoing a direction change when you get on the brakes for that corner as well, which makes it very easy to unsettle the rear end. The GTPs as well, remember, they're hybrids. They use regenerative braking on the rear axle. So that's a bit of extra braking power to the rear, which can unsettle the back end of the car. More pit stops, meanwhile, in our GT3 class. Chris Stewart just completing his stop. Eric Fenson and Evan Henneman also in the pit lane as well. We're still waiting on pit stops for Gardner, Sircone, Cummings, Reeves, Murphy, Alvarado, and looks like Savadra and Trunka also haven't visited the pits yet, as well as Bowie Suin. Looks like the Mustang runners have decided largely it's a good idea to stay out for a bit longer.
Not coming into the pit lane just yet, but you're going to have to be calling into question when is the right time. Only, well, under 40 minutes left of this race now, so your chances really and your selection of laps are running out. You've got to really make sure that you're picking the right one. But we were talking earlier about how Pat Pelchat may just not want to pit before he needs to, so why would he? He's out in the lead by 7 seconds. There's no reason to put yourself into a bit of a gaggle of cars unless you absolutely need to. In the 919, he is driven with absolute perfection, with such poise and control, and he's looking like he's going to make it back-to-back wins.
Yeah, Pat Pelchat looking incredibly strong, and I mean he's been pretty much the fastest car on track the whole race. He holds the fastest lap. One of the only drivers in the low 143 second bracket. In fact, the only driver in the low 143s, and he's still setting 143 lap times out there in front. Meanwhile, Jake Cummings and Corey Sircone have decided to make their way to the pits in the GT3 class. So has Ryan Reeves. We keep an eye on the Ferrari here of, I believe, Sean Murphy, and the number 11, working his way up here. One of the few remaining GT3s yet to visit the pit lane. And out comes
running out really.
Sircone right next to him.
I was going to say, running out really of just of cars generally to filter into that pit lane, meaning that we're generally now going to see the order that we're going to see to the rest, to the flag for the rest of the race. So it's going to be really, really important for the drivers that are in battles now to work out if these are battles going to the end of the race and whether they're worth fighting, or whether maybe there's a consideration of maybe waiting, sitting in behind, and being more careful, being more considerate, because there might be a couple of drivers left to pit. But like I say, chances are coming fewer, but yeah, there's fewer cars on track that haven't come into the pit lane, and fewer now that Pat Pelchat and Nathan Bartley are into the pit lane. Yeah,
top two overall. And we'll keep an eye on pit stop times for them. Pit stop times for GT3. I've noticed Jake Cummings had an abnormally long pit stop of 15 seconds, usually seeing about 11 to 12 seconds is the pit stop time for GT3s. Pelchat comes out of the pits with an 11.5 second stop. Nathan Bartley was a lot slower through the lane. It looked like the run into and out of the box probably not working out too well for the number 37, so that's yet more time that he'll lose to Pelchat in the battle for the overall lead of the race. It's Alex de Almeida on screen at the moment who now leads, and Ian Rodrigo Abreu obviously fans of the go long strategy, still on track together. They'll be hoping that their pit stops are nice and short, and they'll be able to recover something from what's been a bit of a chaotic race for these two.
A chaotic race for everyone, I think it's fair to say, isn't it? I mean, it's just been chaos up and down the field, really. No one, apart from a couple of the leaders, really, have been able to get it through cleanly. And there is Alex de Almeida, making not just myself and Reese uncomfortable. I think Dustin making the broadcast was uncomfortable there as well, with that moment looking like that could have been catastrophic for his race, and especially considering that if something happened there between Alex de Almeida, Rodrigo Abreu and Pat Pelshad are not that far behind and could have more than easily been collected in it.
Yeah, the race is certainly by no means over as de Almeida and Abreu decide to play the team game and come into the pits at the same time. Some of the final GTP cars to make their way into the pits. We're still waiting on Carsten Quint and Ray Kingsbury to make their way into that class. There's the replay of the move that made us incredibly uncomfortable. You know, there's not much margin for error in those high speeds of the high speed sections of the circuit. Sorry.
Of which there are relatively quite a lot around the Nürburgring. There's lots of areas, even medium speed corners particularly, where there's a lot of those around here. You don't really get away with too much at the Nürburgring, as we're now seeing Evan Henneman trying to overtake Mark Kalin. I did notice that he was talking about he was going to try and get his first win in PRL in a couple of years, but just sliding wide down at the bottom of the racetrack. Going to let through Evan Henneman, who's up into P8 now, but Mark Kalin still fighting away valiantly and still looking for an outside line here.
Yep, still looking for it. Mark Kalin, obviously in the big hog of a Mustang that he's got there, and unfortunately looks like a bit of a hog in the corners as well, struggling to get it slowed down without incident there. I was going to point out the Mustang seems to punch much more of a hole through the air than the Ferrari. It's a much more high profile race car there compared to the low mid-engine Ferrari. Oh no, Rodrigo Abreu getting crossed up with a GT3 in the hairpin. That's going to allow Graham Wildman through for 5th place, and Bradley Holly and Jeremy Carter are going to get through as well.
This is really just not helping my heart at what is 3 o'clock in the morning. It's just moment after moment, and just cars all over the road. Abreu losing out so many positions now. Graham Wildmont, Christmas has come 6 months early for him, as he's now up into P5, just behind Alex de Almeida, but nearly disaster as well for Rodrigo Abreu and Jeremy Carter and Bradley Holly there, as they nearly all came together. The exit of the corner, going to be on board here. Oh yeah, that GT3 in the middle of the road, yeah, and too deep to boot as well. That is not a recipe one, and then there's contact.
Yeah, looked like yeah, making his way through there, a bit of contact. So that's just yet another strike against Rodrigo Abreu's form there. Unfortunate. But he will continue on for the time being. He'll be thinking about what might have been in this race. Bartley versus Rice for 2nd in GTP. This has been boiling away for some time in the background, and it's certainly been one of the highlights to watch here. But GT3 traffic is going to make its presence known once again. Diving up the inside into Schumacher S, they get by without incident. That will create a little bit of racing further back in those GT3 positions. But for now, looks like Bartley is safe over Rice, but not by much. Rice took 7/10 out of Bartley on the last lap.
Yeah, Rice is not going to let Bartley have it easily, is he? By any stretch of the imagination. And with the GT3 traffic that just seems endless, the 37 car of Nathan Bartley, it's not going to make life any easier for him, but that will, getting a bit of a nice block in the GT3. Nothing, of course, that the GT3 is doing wrong there. Holding up John Rice in a way that's going to allow Nathan Bartley to gain away those extra couple of tenths, which could be crucial come the end of this race, which is fast approaching. 6 minutes left then here at the Nürburgring in this GTP GT3 series race in PRL It's the Monday night action. It's round 2 of the 3rd season of 2024 on iRacing. And it's looking like that we're going to get a grandstand finish here as the sun begins to dip behind the trees at the Green Hill. But let's see Bradley Holly. He's looking backwards because he's having to defend, as he's had to do for so long in this race. Can he hold on to this top sixer? That's what he's looking for right now. But he's got Jeremy Carters and Rodrigo Abreu hungry behind him. And there goes Carters up the inside.
Becomes the outside for turn 2, and you can get on the power a bit earlier and complete the move, as Jeremy Carter does. But Holly diving back up the inside. He's going to be crossed up behind the GT3 here. Which one of these guys is going to make their way past the Ferrari first? It is going to be Bradley Holly. He'll hold on to the position for just a few moments longer, but Jeremy Carter is looking aggressive right now, up 6 positions and looking to gain even more.
Yeah, really looking to just maybe assert that authority, get through more than half of the field before the end of this race. Bradley Holly, he's looking so focused, isn't he, in that GTP car, and you can't really blame him. He's got a lot of work to do, the 184. He's got 2 drivers behind him who are desperate to find their way through, and clearly, especially in the form of Jeremy Carter's, look a little bit quicker. Inside move attempted, and there's a little bit of contact. Around goes Carter's, but you have to say, I touched on it earlier on, you cannot make a half-hearted move here at the Nürburgring, and I feel like that's exactly what just happened there.
Yeah, Jeremy trying to go for the inside at that left-hander. It's a very fast corner indeed, and he just wasn't far up enough to really have a right to the corner there. You got to be alongside significantly the car you're passing if you want to get the move done there. Well, now that's opened up the door for Rodrigo Abreu to try and get 6th place back, but Bradley Holly has proved a very tough customer so far.
I don't think he's barely been overtaken at all, and when he has been, he's had to drawing blood from his stone. There was my sentence I was trying to get. Well, I was trying not to get too nervous about Abreu there at turn 1, but he will continue to try and get through on Bradley Holly if he can. Holly just trying to scarper away any which way he can. 3 minutes 30 left on the clock now. Pelchat leading by 12 seconds. I don't think there's any worry for him. It's just more of a worry for the likes of Nathan Bartley. Less than 2 seconds ahead of John Rice. Bradley Holly we're looking at now ahead of Rodrigo Abreu, who has been fast charging, but making mistakes, it's fair to say, this evening. Who's going to come out on top in that regard? It's going to be a close one. We've got about another 2.5 laps left of this race to find out.
Yeah, the time has ticked away. We are under 3 minutes to go, and Pat Pelchat is dominant. 12 seconds at the line on the last lap, and it looks like it's going to be the same on this lap as well. Nathan Bartley and John Rice have a bit more space between them now, so it looks like the battle for 3rd is over, at least until they come up to the next couple of GT3s. But yeah, it's been a great drive from Pat Pelchat so far. Touch wood, don't want to curse him. It seems that he is the man to beat in the GTP class this season.
Yeah, dominant last week at the at Algarve at Portimao. Dominant this week here at the Nürburgring as well. Brett Gardner as well, dominant in the GT3 category. Rory Saccone is 9 seconds adrift, a long way back, and Jake Cummings a further 11 seconds as well. So Brett Gardner having an incredibly comfortable evening. And I think it's only right to say that we've had a comfortable evening for Brett Gardner, Corey Saccone, and Pat Pelchat. Everybody else has been on the edge of their, sim rig seats, trying to make sure that they get to the end of this race in the best position possible, because that has been so tough for all of them out there in this race. And yet, with 1 minute 30 left on the clock, we're still seeing fights now between Holly Abreu and Jeremy Carter, who's coming back after the half spin.
Yeah, good comeback from Jeremy Carter indeed. And it seems like these GTP cars can take a bit of a battering, because in spite of the contact we've seen between a lot of these guys, they haven't actually dropped off in pace all that much. This could be awkward for Holly. Eric Fenson here has to pick a way through, decides to go for the inside into Schumacher S. Next GT3 is Ryan Reeves, and the GTPs will snake their way around him. That spaced them out a little bit. Rodrigo Rodrigo Abreu will be on his way here to try and pass Bradley Holly. Will he be successful? Oh, and Carter getting held up behind Reeves there. Unfortunately, no longer a part of this battle. But you never know. If there's a coming together between Holly and Abreu, he'll be right back in it.
Carter's really got held up through the Schumacher S behind one of the GT3 cars, and again we saw it there, getting held up once again, and it's now allowed, really, Rodrigo Abreu to be the sole challenger to Bradley Holly as we get on to what should be the final lap of the race here at the Nürburgring. The time is nearly about to tick down to 0, and Pat Pelchat's nowhere near the line, so the white flag is well and truly flying for these guys as down the inside goes Rodrigo Abreu, but he's gone too deep. Bradley Holly saw it coming, got it stopped perfectly for the apex, and he's back up in front. P6 now for the 184.
Well, Bradley Holly is doing incredibly well, isn't he? Holding off this advance from Rodrigo Abreu. Behind them, Jeremy Carter had a big snap, but he has almost caught back up to them. Almost. He'll be hoping for a couple of mistakes from them on the way to the line. Jake Cummings is the next GT3 car that these guys are going to be coming up on, and Cummings running a strong P3 in the GT3 class right now. Holly flashing his lights to let Cummings know that he is coming.
Yeah, but also coming around the final corner is Pat Pelchat. Yeah, just to win this race, he's 11 seconds in the lead. He's cruised home. There's been no worry in the world for him all race long. Fastest lap win, everything you could ever need for Pat Pelchat, the 919. 2 from 2 this season in the GTP category, and he will lead the championship as we work our way in towards round 3 next time out. Bradley Holly, though, can he defend this P6 from Rodrigo Abreu? It looks like he will be able to. There's only the one more chicane in the final corner to come for the 184 to defend this position, and I just about think he's going to do it. Bartley is second, Rice is third, Brett Gardner wins in the GT3 class, fully deserved as well from him. 12 seconds ahead of Corey Saccone. But here comes Bradley Holly, the man with the T-cam, and I think he's just about going to hold on. He's P6 at the moment, and no one else can touch him. Abreu tried absolutely everything he could. Carter's did as well. But Bradley Holly stays in P6, and a very, very valiant effort from the 184, rewarded with some very, very nice points.
Yeah, that was a fantastic race in the GTP class and in GT3 as well. Unfortunately, it seems that we lost Ray Kingsbury very late on, and so he's going to find himself in the midst of the GT3 field in what was a bit of a race of attrition in the GT3 class. Yeah, plenty of drama to go around here in the GTP and GT3 series here at the Precision Racing League.
Race though, that was Reese. I mean, it was an incredible showcase of why we love seeing these GTP GT3 races at such historic tracks like the we're not doing all of it. The Nürburgring, just the GP loop, but still some great racing action, some fantastic moments, and some real moments of high drama. And it has all boiled down to the results of the race. It was such a good race, as we've touched upon, as we're back in Misano there briefly. I thought we'd escaped the rain, but we're back there for half a second. Either way, it was Pat Pelchat winning the race by a very comfortable margin. Nathan Bartley and John Rice second and third, half a second between them. That just feels like it's been a running theme all the way through the evening in both of our races. Alex de Almeida P4, Graham Wildmon in P5, a very valiant drive for him to come home in the top 5. Bradley Holly, he defended, and he made sure he came home P6 in a very deserved performance. Rodrigo Abreu, Jeremy Carters, Jack Hedgecox, and Nicholas Schwartz are in the top 10 for the GTP category. Only 4 more drivers, of course, in this category to roll through, and they were Darian Roy and Carsten Quinn. Ray Kingsbury and Nathan Ray, 3 and 5 laps off the back, so they weren't really in it at all, but still, it completed quite a few laps. 21 in the case of Nathan Ray, so that was the minimum for anybody in the GTP category. The GT3s, though, it was Brett Gardner, 12.3 seconds in front in a Chevy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Jake Cummings and Chris Stewart were third and fourth, over half a minute off the lead in the case of Stewart. Ryan Reeves, Eric Fenson, Sean Murphy and Evan Henneman were in the top 8. 3 Ferraris there from Fenson to Henneman. Gabriel Alvarado and Mark Kalin round out the top 10, with Mark Kalin getting a top 10 just about. William Fenson in 11th, with Richard Saavedra and Travis Pruitt 12th and 13th. Bowie Suen and Daniel Trinker in the top 15. Chris Treiber, Kerry Corcoran, Jake Mackey, Ted Lovendick and Thomas Yankee in the top 20. Although I don't believe Yankee got to the line. A few more drivers in this category as well. And they were Dean Giroux, Corey Fenson, Treyas Venka Taraju and Brendan Chatley, none of whom saw the checkered flag in that race. But Reese, 38 cars, more than enough action over the course of that one. I think it's going to be difficult to really split that one apart.
Yeah, very difficult indeed, but rising above it all, Pat Pelchat, what a fantastic drive from our championship leader, extending that championship lead. He's with us now.
Hey, yeah, Pat, I mean, what a race. What a race from you. It didn't really look like you were challenged. There was so much carnage around you. Were you ever worried about maybe an incident happening with everything happening around you, or were you just focused on your pace because it was really, really strong today?
I thought I was going to die at least 2 times. There was one incident that's more specifically just outside the chicane. Honestly, I need to go and look at back, but I don't know seriously how I got out of that one.
I mean, you're qualifying as well. The pace was really, really high. Was there any kind of trick that you used there, or is it something you're going to keep close to your chest?
To be honest, I messed up my quali. So I only did like a push lap, so I had probably 5/10 still in the car. So yeah, I got lucky there. Could have been much worse.
That's not worrying for the rest of the field by any stretch of the imagination. But looking forward, I mean, you've got great points under your belt already. 9 rounds of the season, so we're nearly a quarter of the way through already. Looking forward to next week. Are you hoping to build on that as we work our way through the calendar, or are you very pleased to get the points you are so far?
I'm very pleased to get the points I've got so far. I think I gotta give a big shout out to Max Muir, which is one of my teammates in the team. My confidence was pretty low today, just heading into the race. I couldn't, get the pace together and the consistency. And Max really spent a lot of time with me, just fixing a few things that I was doing wrong. And it really, really paid off. Confidence was growing throughout the race, and championship is looking good. Next week is going to be a bit of a struggle with the Acura, but we'll try to push through and see how the season pans out. But yeah, I think we're starting good.
Yeah, and of course, it's going to be Daytona Road Course next week. So is that one that you're looking forward to particularly, or not one of your strongest?
It's one of my good tracks, to be honest. But yeah, the Acura is going to be pretty shitty there. I'm fairly certain. So we're going to have to push through that one and do what we have with what we have. So we'll see.
We will see. But thanks, Pat. Well done again, and we will speak to you probably soon off the basis of that performance. So well done.
Thank you guys for the broadcast and all.
Lovely stuff from Pat Pelchat. Yeah, great to speak to him indeed.
No, I was going to say exactly that. Great to speak to him. A fully deserved win as well, because he really just didn't look back in that race whatsoever.
Yeah, didn't look back at all. Second of them all in the GTPs was Nathan Bartley, who's with us now. Nathan, you had a great battle with John Rice all the way through that one, but it was all about the ebb and flow of the traffic.
100%. He had a different pit strategy than me, so I kind of lost him for a little bit, and he came right back on my bumper. Bunch of GT3s were having fun all around us, so yeah, great race.
Yeah, how do you think the track contributed to all of that? Because, it's obviously a bit of a different circuit than Portimao, but still plenty of space in a few locations for some side-by-side.
It's definitely a track where there's no grip right off the racing line, so it's tough to do a lot of side-by-side, but I don't know, I think it's a bloody awesome track. Fast, high speed, technical, yeah, I love it.
Well, with a podium finish at this round, obviously things are looking good for you. You're one of the drivers who is sticking with the Acura for now. There was some news of balance of performance changes for the Acura, a bit less power, bit less downforce. Did you notice any real difference to your pace or the way the car felt?
A slower car is probably better for my skill level, so we'll stick with the Acura. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, congratulations once again, Nathan, and hopefully we get a chance to talk to you next week.
Yeah, cheers.
Nathan Bartley, a very strong drive indeed. The man he was battling with all race, John Rice, is now with us.
Yeah, John, a good result for you in the end. I mean, maybe disappointing that you weren't quite able to pick up the P2 there, but still a podium. Must be pleased with that.
Looks like his mic is still muted, so I think we'll give John some time to.
It would help if I unmuted myself.
There we go.
It's my first time. Cut me some slack. Yeah, the race was all right. If I could critique it, I would probably just circle the whole thing as, trash. I kind of biffed quali, and the start felt all right, but after that, I just couldn't catch a break with traffic. But Nathan did a good job to keep it in front of me. I feel like that was payback for Laguna, where he had to stare at my back bumper, so I checked out the backside of his livery for this race, and it's quite nice.
I mean, how bad was it when you were fighting through that GT3 traffic where, there'd be a time where he can get away a little bit from you just because of the natural, the way that the traffic worked? Was that, how annoying was that, and how did you try and recover that time? Did you then try and use some of the other GT3s to your advantage?
It wasn't too annoying. The only part of the track I felt pretty confident that I was faster than him and I could actually see it was the final chicane, so I knew if I lost a couple of tenths over the lap, I would gain it back at that, and then we'd be back at, net zero.
But a fully deserved podium overall. And, I mean, looking forward next week, we're talking about Daytona being the next track. Is that one of your strongest ones? Of course, very popular in a GTP these days.
I'm pretty confident around it. It's got fewer corners, so it's easier to focus and nail every single one as it comes to you. So we'll see.
Yeah, similar tracks, always for the win. But thank you, John. Congratulations again, and congratulations on that podium, because it was fully well deserved, and unlucky not to get that P2 in the end.
Appreciate it.
John Rice completing our podium there in the GTP class. Meanwhile, in GT3s, well, we get another chance to talk to Brett Gardner, who absolutely dominated once again. It's been a perfect start to the season for you so far, Brett. That Corvette looks to be suiting you perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree. I feel like we're very happy with our car choice at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, the mid-engine Corvette, obviously a controversial car when it first eventuated in the real world, but seems to suit the twists and turns of the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit very nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. The setup was pretty good for both of us, I think. Something that I keep on finding that I definitely need to do with this car is keep setting it up in a way that doesn't shred the tires. I think that's definitely the car's strongest suit is definitely it's really good on turning, but it does have that tendency to kill the tires. So as long as you can keep that managed, it feels fast the whole way.
Do you think that's going to be a problem at Daytona? Because obviously it's high speed priority there, but the infield section could certainly shred the tires up a bit.
Yeah, potentially. I gotta be honest, I'm not entirely sure. In my first thought is that I probably wouldn't have to worry about it too much with just how long of the just flat out straights we have. I would hope that would cool off the tires, but I could be incredibly totally wrong about that. So only time will tell.
Indeed it will. Well, thanks for joining us, Brett. Congratulations on your second victory on the trot this season, and hoping for more of that at Daytona.
Thank you.
Well, Brett Gardner there, once again finishing in the lead of the GT3s, Dara. Next up, Corey Sircone, and we got his last name right this time.
Yeah, I think we have. I'm pretty sure. We good job we asked last week. We definitely knew what we were doing. But Corey, another big race for you. I mean, it was chaos all the way through. You kind of managed to keep your way out of it by being where you were on the track. Walk us through how you managed the traffic, because it did really look quite sketchy. Lots of points with the hypercars.
Yeah, there were quite a few moments I really didn't know what to do. Quite a few times I got caught driving in my mirrors, and I know you shouldn't do that. But, you know, luckily we've got some pretty good drivers out here, so everyone was able to avoid the carnage. But, I mean, for the most part, I was just, you know, following my line and, you know, managing that, and it seemed to work out for me.
Let's talk about your pace, though, because it was very, very strong once again off the back of last week. This must really give you a good confidence boost going into next week at Daytona and future rounds, where you've really shown some great pace in both opening races so far.
Yeah, again, pretty nice surprise, you know, coming out and running P2. So, you know, I'll take it. And, I mean, there came a point in the race where I pretty much just went on cruise control. I knew I wasn't going to catch Brett. So I basically just watched my gap to P3 and just kind of maintained that. I don't know what happened there. I don't know, probably 5-6 laps in or whatever. There was probably like a 4 or 5 second gap, and then all of a sudden I'm back on Brett's bumper. I'm not sure what happened there, but I got excited there for a second, and then he's gone 3 seconds ahead of me within like 2 laps. So, but it was fun.
Yeah, but well done again. Great pace showing while we're speaking to you again for the second time in 2 weeks. And who's to say we'll be speaking to you again this time next week? So well done, Corey, and all the best for the next couple of rounds.
All right, appreciate you.
Brilliant stuff from Corey Sircone. And finally, we'll jump in with Jake Cummings, the teammate to Brett Gardner. Great result for the team there, Jake. 1 and 3.
Yeah. I mean, I had a sniff at the 1-2 right at the start. Felt like I was faster than him early on, but once he was able to get into his rhythm, I just didn't have anything for Cody. So really good race by him, but especially a really, really good race for my teammate Brett. He was just in another league. He was telling me he was fuel saving half the time, and that's how he was able to get that extra lap. So yeah, he definitely was the class of the field today.
Yeah, did you think you had anything for Corey? You guys were pretty close at the start, but it seemed like things just extended between you throughout the race. Was GTPs coming through something to do with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's probably what sealed it for me, I think, with having a good shot at that, because I mean, I was in his slipstream the first few laps. I made a mistake going over the chicane curb a little too hard, and I lost touch of them, and then then the GTPs came, and that really made a pretty big gap there in the end. And it just I just didn't feel stuck into the track at that point. So he extended pretty well. I had a long pit stop, and yeah, it was just kind of game over from there for me. But we can be happy with the 1-3. Good for our team for sure, and the championship there. And yeah, we can only really go up from here and build up from here. So really excited for the rest of the season.
As you should be. It seems like the Corvette's going to be strong no matter what track you go to. Daytona probably going to be a quick one for you guys too. Is there any other tracks on the schedule that jump out to you as places where you think you're going to go well?
Let me look at the schedule real quick, man. Well, yeah, I mean, Daytona, I'm just seeing the Mercedes really dominating there right now. I've never actually driven Canadian Tire. I don't know, it's hard to say. We only got the Corvette. It's new to everyone, but we only got it even more recently just to do this league, so we could match cars. I'm not really too sure how I feel about it yet, but it's pretty good fun to drive. I'm not really too sure on the whole track specifics thing. But what I like about it is it's mid-engine, and you can only push the entry a bit more than the front-engine car, so it suits my driving style a little more once I can really get stuck into the track. And man, once I show up to a track where I can actually feel really confident in myself, I think we're going to have a much better showing even than tonight.
Well, congratulations on the podium once more, Jake, and yeah, hopefully there's more to come.
I hope so, man. I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for commentating.
You too, mate. Jake Cummings there, finishing third place in the GT3 class for tonight. Well, next week, Dara, we do indeed go to Daytona. Really looking forward to this one. You know, these cars, they have plenty of experience in the real and sim worlds racing at this track. It's going to be another fun night of racing.
Yeah, and with Mosport eluding it, you could say, with the LMP3 and the GT4 race at Mosport, it's going to be a really interesting evening of racing. Two very different circuits, but two circuits that can throw up some great racing action, particularly in these multi-class series that we have. So more than looking forward to it next week at Daytona and at Mosport in both of our series. But after speaking to all of our podium sitters, which is it was lovely to do so. It's great when we get all of the top three from both categories in. It's time for us to say goodbye and thank you for tuning in this evening. It's been a great racing evening worth of action. We've had some great action at Misano. The rain came, and then of course at the Nürburgring there were cars all over the road. You didn't really know where to look, and we have to thank Dustin Ollis for keeping us up to date and afresh with all of the action that was going on. From myself, Darren Thacker, from Reese Gardner alongside me up in the commentary booth, we thank you for watching and we'll see you next time. Daytona, Mosport, they await next week. We'll see you then. Goodbye.